Listen, people are like, I mean, it's a real valid thing, man. You gotta watch out. Like,
no, it's just funny that the reassurance is not. No, you're safe. I'm not big enough for you to not be safe.
well, yeah, I don't have enough schizo. I mean, like, I've dated a girl that turned out to be schizophrenic, and like when she started telling me the colors that I was wearing on my shirt, with telling her that I was trying to do stuff, or like I was like, oh, and then like the TV
you
was
got to
doing
bail,
this.
bro.
I was like, this is not good. Like, it's time to be out, right? Like, so like,
Okay, but tell the truth, Gibbs. You didn't go out right away when you heard that. You waited a few weeks, and you're like, toe in the water. You were like, and
well,
then you
she
bailed.
actually resolved the solution for me by doing some real crazy stuff, and
Okay.
I was like, oh, perfect. I have an excuse now. You stole my truck, and I was like, well, easy peasy. Now I can break up with you. But anyway, let's kick this off. Welcome everybody to Give Me a Break. And we are doing oh, hold on, they're coming in now. Any channel, any VC. We're doing Give Me a Break today. We're talking about why the Dems love modern slavery and all the insights to that. And we have some people here that agree with that and some people that obviously don't. And it's going to be a good time. But first, we're going to have everybody introduce themselves, tell us who they are, what they do, and then we'll come back around for intros. Start us off with Average Debate Enjoyer.
Name's Average Debate Enjoyer. Go by Tyler. You can find me on YouTube and Twitch doing that. And we're giving stance, quick overall stance too.
Sure, go ahead. Let's do that.
All right, fine. So I think maybe the panel goes a little bit too far in legal slavery. I think it's better to say legal indentured servitude. That's probably a closer fit. The reasons why we're going to go over, but extra seats when delegating House seats through the Congress, extra money going to your state, and if we look at the promises of the Democrats when they run for office, those people that are yesterday's second-class indentured servants are going to be tomorrow's voters if they give amnesty to all of them as stated. So we're going to go over all that today, probably.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much. We got Fabian Liberty.
Yeah, I'm Fabian Liberty. Just Google me, and I'm on YouTube and Twitter, Fabian Liberty. Yeah, I'm an anarcho-objectivist. I mostly do like interviews, debates, and reactions from that perspective, and talk a lot about political philosophy and stuff. So my definition of slavery that I wrote out, this is me. Any system that forcibly takes the product of one's labor or property, or compels a person to act against his will, is a form of aggression that negates bodily autonomy and reduces the individual to a state of servitude. That is what I am arguing is slavery. And by that definition, the Democrats are obviously, without a doubt, pro-slavery. The arguments that I would give forward towards that would be that taxation is a form of theft and coerced labor, that the welfare state is a dependency trap to create slaves. Democrats love regulations on property and thus on people's autonomy. They have historically always believed in these things, from the New Deal, the silent generation forward. They are uniquely for gun control in a way that the far left and the right are not, as a means of disarming the slaves that they have created. Affirmative action, diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, and things of this nature is a form of coerced inequality. Public education is a system of indoctrination that is designed to pacify and indoctrinate their slaves into liking their own slavery. Healthcare mandates, insurance mandates, and things of this nature are absolutely a form of slavery that require the labor of coerced labor of doctors and insurance providers and people that are forced into those systems. And labor regulations, NLRB, and things of this nature make slaves both of the workers and corporations, and is a form of corporate bootlicking designed to help large corporations. That is also designed to maintain power and their system of slavery. And the last one would be, it needs no explanation, eminent domain.
Right. Thank you so much. Grid.
Hey, yeah, I'm Grid One Motorsports. You can find me at An Unreasonable Man on YouTube, Twitch. I even have a Rumble that I don't really use much, but you can find me there. I'm also on X and some other places, but I don't really. I guess I'm just not a social media kind of guy that way. But I really appreciate you having me on, Gibbs, and chance to have the conversation that we'll have. I kind of agree with Tyler. It's more like indentured servitude, but I think that we can draw some parallels very accurately with that indentured servitude model, especially with the H-1B visa program. And we can't ignore the illegal immigrants that are coming in that are being, like we saw in the Hyundai plant that was raided, I believe, down in Georgia. I could be wrong about that. I've read a lot of articles this week. But they raided the Hyundai plant full of illegal immigrants who were basically, they're not forced to work there per se, but certainly they can't really go anywhere else to get a job. So it becomes a very interesting dynamic. The H-1B program, it's a scheme in my mind that ties a foreign worker like a serf as a sponsor and like a feudal lord sort of manner. These workers are often from India and China. I've known some of the Chinese ones myself. I've talked to them about it, and I've watched them navigate, their situation. They do actually, there's a lot of problems with the system. I don't understand why the Democrats seem to love this particular system, but we'll get into it and figure it out tonight. And I can't wait to hear more.
All right, thank you so much, Soy Phil.
Just to be clear, I did think this debate was about illegal immigration and how it was akin to slavery. If we do get into a libertarian debate, which I'm willing to do, I might self-immolate midway through, but that's fine. Just wanted to warn everyone. Illegal immigration does have a lot of issues with underpaid and abused workers. That is why Democrats support a path to citizenship, as Tyler mentioned. You can call it indentured servitude. I might even agree that to an extent, a lot of these people are stuck and abused by their employers, and that is why we're trying to get them, social security numbers, pay their taxes, and actually get paid fair wages. That's why we support a path to citizenship. We don't want this to continue. In regards to the welfare state, it's the same thing. Just because we want a social safety net to help people in their lowest time does not mean we want them to be on it permanently, which is why there are so many ways that these things ask you to get off of it. In fact, a lot of people do get off of it within 1, 2, or 5 years. I think it's like 90% of people. So, for example, any sort of unemployment saying, hey, are you looking for a job? We're trying to get you on a job. Now, to be fair, it's not very good, and I wish it was better. But the idea that we want to keep them like this, reliant on the state, or keep them indentured and illegal immigrants is very weird to me, because I just don't think that is at all the platform of the Democrats, or ever really has been. We don't want that. I don't believe the Democrats support slavery. We're not the Democrats of the 1850s.
Thank you so much. Yes, and don't worry, those are going to be the two main focuses, or at least that's my plan. But we'll see how the combo goes. Let's go to our newest guest, Val here. Welcome into the panel. It's good to see you, Turtle. Go ahead and
Tortoise.
Tortoise. It is a tortoise. Yes, my bad. I should know that. Give us your where to find you and what you do, and your opening thoughts.
Hi, I'm Val or Valerie. I guess I'm like I don't really know. I used to do some YouTube stuff, but I'm mostly around on like Discord and whatnot. I was kind of asked to fill in for another person who was here. Mostly what I do is I like do reading concerning philosophy and a lot of different like moral reasoning, and then I do some like political commentary here and there.
Fantastic.
If you really want to find me, I'm like the Bunk Politics on Twitter, I guess, but I don't really post there.
What are your opening thoughts on the subject?
My opening thoughts end up being so there has to be like a really large equivocation if I'm to take the statement that it is essentially like modern day slavery. What slavery means. I don't think that's what we want to be encapsulating whenever most people are trying to talk about, though. I guess people trying to make their decisions and their reasons based on what's the best economic choice for them. If we want to have conversations, like I'm sure Fabian Liberty and I could probably find like common ground on things like the unfairness of the system and whatnot. We can have conversations about that, but that does end up being quite different from the ownership of people and the consideration of them as property, or similar to like cattle and whatnot. these people are afforded rights, and in fact, I think probably under Republicans, they end up being afforded less rights, treated more similar to the cattle of similar slavery moral status. And so I don't really end up having much agreement on the proposition, but I don't know. I think it'd be an interesting conversation either way.
All right, thank you so much. Let's get like Soy Pill kind of alluded to in his opening. Yeah, I do want to maybe focus more at the beginning, at least, on the illegal immigration and the some of the welfare state kind of situations that we have. I think maybe we can go into the eminent domain later. I think that's also
I just went with the
interesting
prompt.
Yeah, no, you're fine. No, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I didn't even think imminent domain when we started this, but I think that would be a good addition to it. But yeah. Soy Pill, you opened up with the what's not the Democratic Party of old when I famous lines, who's gonna pick our cotton, who's gonna pick our crops, and then who's gonna clean our bathrooms. That's been uttered by the Democrats of old and the Democrats of today. It seems like they're worried about the slaves.
Yes, so I did want to address that. So that is a line that's often coupled with the illegal immigration, topic, and it is true. The idea that if we just were to mass deport all the illegal immigrants, one, it would be incredibly costly, and two, it would be a huge hit to three big industries: construction, agriculture, and restaurant workers. Now, the idea that they're doing the jobs no one else wants to do, and then you add on the implication being, because not a lot of people have this nuance, so you want them to be underpaid. That's why people don't want these jobs. Keep them in these jobs because they are supporting our economy on all this fucked up, damn near slave labor. I don't think is nearly borne out when you look at what the Democratic Party actually advocates for, which is, hey, we do think these people should deserve better wages. We do think that they should get the Social Security back that they're paying into with their stolen tax numbers or whatever. So we should legalize them, naturalize them, make sure they get fair wages. And if these industries can't survive without paying people sub minimum wage wages, then they shouldn't survive, or they should be regulated out of existence, or seized by the government or something. So yes, I do understand the sentiment of, hey, look at this, you guys are claiming that we need to keep these slave classes working. I don't think that's the end of the argument, because the Democratic Party advocates to not keep them as a slave class.
Well, so the Democrat Party, am I wrong in saying that they were unhappy that the Hyundai plant in Georgia got raided? And ICE arrested 475 people and is set to deport those people?
Yeah, I think they're unhappy about it. Yeah.
Okay. So those people were mostly South Korean nationals flown in by Hyundai. They didn't come across the border. They're not what you're talking about. They're not people who came here for freedom. They didn't come here for a better life. They were hired in South Korea to fly across the world and have a fucking job. That's not what you're talking about, Soy Pill. So I'm confused as to why you're saying that.
1 second. So let's just accept every premise. I don't necessarily, because they did come here for a better life, to be clear. But that's not a majority of what I think people would talk about.
Why do you say that?
And I think,
show me how that's possible that they came here for a better life.
Well, what do you think they came here to do?
I think they came here because someone in South Korea said, "Hey, we've got a job. You're going to live in the factory. You're going to, or in factory housing, and you're going to work for us at a wage we send back to your family in South Korea." But there's no route to citizenship.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Just to be clear, I'm not claiming, when I say better life, I don't mean they came to America to establish themselves as Americans and invest in this country. I mean, they saw this as an opportunity to improve their lives. That's why they would do something that would underpay them or treat them poorly, or break the law in such a way. Not, hey, they're
they don't. I don't know that they
invest
even.
in the
I don't know that they understood they were breaking the law, because they may not.
Very possibly not. But
policies.
The point of contention is not that specifically, though. What I'm trying to say is, when I'm talking about illegal immigration writ large, yes, this is one example of it. I would say the Democrats' problem with this is either one, if everything you're saying, if we accept it, they don't understand that this is a very different exception of a specific company flying in illegal immigrants to abuse the law, and not, hey, people who came here overstayed visas and then are trying to work and make a living, and we should naturalize them. But
can I?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, can I just?
Can I accept your premise? I would
yeah,
like to
go
accept
ahead.
your premise.
Well, actually, can I just expound on this really quickly before it escapes me? So here's the thing. Georgia Democrats called it politically motivated fear tactics. That's a quote. And Senator Raphael Warnock, you may have heard of him.
Yeah.
He questioned the strategy of arresting and deporting these people. Now, there was outrage at the raid, not the exploitation of these people. The problem is not that these people are being exploited, but that Americans went in there and said, "Hey, you can't do this." Now, apparently, this is a something that's growing. It's a growing thing in the United States where, because of our lax border security and that sort of thing, we have companies like LG, specifically LG and Hyundai. I'm just going to pick on them because that's been documented. There may be others. And these companies literally fly over people to work in their factories. They pay them equivalent wages to what they make in their home country. They feed them. They house them in basically dorms. These are equivalent to slave cottages in the ancient South, and that you would have a problem with. This is exactly slavery. This is exactly slavery. I don't care if they're getting a minimum wage. And so,
yeah, so
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, trust me. I'm
They're
going to talk
paying
too
minimum
much
wage and voluntarily working it, and you find it to be
they're not
equivalent
paying
to
the
slavery
minimum
morally?
wage. They're not.
So
they're not paying
this
them.
is
You said you
what I was
don't care
gonna
if it's
say
minimum
is-
wage.
Val, hold on a second, Val. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
so
go ahead.
this is
Sorry.
this is going to be one of the areas where I would say that this is proof that also the Republicans love slavery, because what you were
I was
describing
going to ask at the
is
beginning, Scott.
is the enslavement.
Huge W.
You're describing the enslavement of the factory owners and the businessmen for Hyundai. These people voluntarily, presuming everything that you said is true, they voluntarily left where they were to come work a job and have a voluntary contract. And this is one of the few instances where the Democrats are conveniently not pro-slavery here, because they're outraged at the government getting in between a voluntary contract between people that want to exchange labor, for services. So I would actually argue that the Republicans that are
I can see that. I
favor
can
of this
see that argument
importation
from
are pro-slavery in this.
From a libertarian point of view, I can see that. I guess where I'm looking at this,
especially because they're invited, right? This isn't like I want to make that very
well. I mean,
clear
I'm making an assumption they're invited.
Well, no, they're invited by. I
don't know.
I don't think Hyundai kidnapped them, right? Like, if
I don't know.
I do want to clear things up because wait.
South
Can I
Korea does
put a
have
fact
sex
here? Can I put a
trafficking
fact?
issues and things, but
Scott, Fabian, 1 second. So the according to the lawyers, which again I don't know what the facts of this case are.
Sure.
I didn't specifically research this, but according to the lawyers, a majority of these people are on the B1 visas, which is legal actually. So there might be some illegal immigrants mixed in with this, or maybe they all are and they're lying about
that's
that.
Usually
right.
how that is.
Right. Like this is like not, to my knowledge, some like mass exploitation thing that I know of. And if it is, this is not representative of, I think, the overall position of the Democratic Party. The reason you might see the reaction, especially from, like, let's say you just showed me this headline and we're like, wow, that's awful the way they're doing that, is because the way it fits into the narrative of how ICE has been conducting raids in the past 3 months. But if you showed the facts of, hey, these people are specifically not even akin to the illegal immigrants that you're used to, this is a specific exploitation program, I bet most people would actually have a problem with that. So
I mean, I think it's to me it seems like exploitation of these people. But
except for Fabio.
Maybe you don't.
Yeah, it's not exploitation if it's a voluntary agreement. Now, if they use the fact that they're here illegally as a means of coercing them into labor, then that's when that goes from a voluntary exchange into utilizing our draconian immigration laws that Democrats and Republicans often both support as a means of being able to actually exploit labor. But if it's a purely voluntary contract, then the government getting in the way of that is the enslavement there.
So I almost agree with you. My only thing is that, and of course I distilled this down from like 3 or 4 different articles.
I'm winning minds. I'm not winning hearts tonight. I get it.
Yeah. Now, I'm getting there, but it is a very specific, and I wrote systemic. I don't know why I did that, but exploitation where corporations like Hyundai and LG hire undocumented or visa violating workers to undercut American labor costs, often in hazardous conditions with no recourse. And again, the outrage was that it was raided, not that people were being exploited. And
think the
sure,
general-
I could see it that if it was a voluntary, I don't know that it's voluntary. I don't know that it's not a bait and switch game. I don't know.
But Grid,
I
the
just
overall
have
point I'm trying to make is that Democrats, maybe in this specific instance of this specific story, were more outraged over the raid. But in general, the Democratic position is not, we should let illegal immigrants work and not give a shit about that. The position is, let's give these people tax numbers, let's naturalize them, because they are being abused, because by being illegal immigrants, they are more scared to, report labor abuses. They're able to be paid sub-minimum wage. Like, I don't know a single Democrat or people that claim to be Democrats who are pro abuse of illegal immigrant workers, other than the narrative, which Gibbs pointed out, of, oh, hey, like, you want to get rid of all the crop workers, right? And it's like, no. They want to make those crop workers be paid fair wages.
Real quick, the thing is what it does, right? Like, the thing is what it does. And so I agree with you that if you were to ask about the specifics of the case, you're 100% right here. But the problem that I see in this regard is that I think you have a Democratic establishment, or we'll just say, the left in general, isolating maybe like the revolutionary left, right? Is very much in favor of loosening the regulations on immigration as it pertains to coming into this country. And what that often leads to is corporations and people abusing these people. And it's like, okay, but we're also for then giving these people a pathway to citizenship. And so it's like, I kind of agree with you if the full plan is enacted, but when you are for loosening of regulations in one domain so that you can grant citizenship, then you are just trying to find a way to get people over here. You don't mind that they're temporarily exploited, though you will if asked about it specifically, and so that you can import a voter base and import new slaves into the system of slavery that Democrats are in such favor of.
The only thing I would concede here is that without implementing the naturalization and having, let's say, Biden's border policy from 2020 to 2024, without the naturalization, that was not able to pass. I believe they tried to pass some bipartisan bill in like 23.
Bipartisan is doing a lot of heavy lifting on that one. Like,
Yeah.
well, fair enough. I get what you mean.
I'm not talking about the
they tried to pass a bill, right?
I'm not talking about the border bill. I'm talking about it's called like the Digna or whatever. It was a different one.
Yeah.
Which was like literally a path to citizenship, right? Like, I can understand, I concede that, like, yeah, if you let one of these things happen and this thing materially doesn't manifest, then you are in a way increasing the indentured illegal immigrant population. I guess the only thing I'd have to say against that is, like, but that's not what these people want. That's not what the Democrats stand for. And so I'm a little... It's iffy to say, like, okay, well, what matters more is like the outcomes of your actions. But like, if we're constantly trying to push legislation to make these people not be in what we, colloquially here we call slavery,
I would just say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I think that kind of surmises a lot of Democrat policy.
I just don't want the dichotomy to be. I just don't want the dichotomy to be.
Go ahead. So I want to get Tyler here because he's over here rubbing his hands.
Yeah. He's ready to box. I don't want the dichotomy to be, well, if you're more lax or letting more people come into this country, if you don't immediately have the utility of being able to pass a naturalization bill for these people you claim to want to naturalize, therefore you are harmful and pro-slavery. So the only other option for you to do is to be, Republican on the border. I think that's a kind of a weird dichotomy.
Just to be very clear, and I know you want to switch to Tyler. That's not my argument. One, I accept that framing for myself in terms of the appropriate way to dissolve the state and it being an ordered process. But two, I'm not saying that's why you're pro-slavery. That's one of the few reasons why you wouldn't be pro-slavery would be the allowing of voluntary contracts. It's all the other state socialist policies that you support that are why you're pro-slavery.
Just to close this out, because I want to get out of Tyler's way here, but the Hyundai Raid is really new. It happened on September.
Just keep interrupting and being like, and then Tyler can speak.
Look, right? So the Hyundai Raid is really new. It happened.
We go through the entire panel closing statements, and it's like, Tyler, you want to end this off?
It's funny, but look, the Hyundai Raid's really, really new. It just happened on the 5th of September. We're still getting information. A lot of the stuff I have is still being vetted, right? So I don't want to stick to that too specifically, but it is an example where we have an abuse of the system and nobody's seen the outrage was that they went in and raided it, not the exploitation of the people. And that's just by the Democrat leaders. I'm not saying the rank and file feel that way. I'm saying that Warnock wasn't mad that they were exploiting people and not paying them and working them in bad conditions. No, he was mad because Trump had ICE go in there and shut the operation down. And now they have to hire American workers and vetted workers and that sort of thing. And so that's what Warnock was mad about. And he is a Democrat. And therefore, that's why I'm able to say that in this case, I think Democrats are much more interested in the raids part of it than the exploitation part of it. And now, I'm sorry, Tyler, I just wanted to kind of close that out.
No. So your little anecdotal sub-tangent there is how you start a great article. You give a nice anecdote to kind of lead in and get everybody's emotions riled up, and then I'm going to come in with the two-punch and lay out the empirical. You went after an anecdote to show that even when the criteria that Sawyer was talking about wasn't there, we still see opposition. Now I'm going to go into the criteria he's talking about. We're going to talk about the 16 potentially million legal immigrants here that cost our government an estimated up to $150 billion a year by being here. Now, the reason why we only take in 1.25 or so roughly legal immigrants a year is because we don't want to overload the economy. What we saw during the Biden administration when they were refusing to deport people, 1.4 million that had valid deportation orders, they ignored the law and didn't deport them. Not always ignoring the law bad, but not deporting them and keeping them here, a lot of them being violent offenders, would suggest that they want these people here. Their agenda is to keep them here regardless of what the law is. Sanctuary cities back that up. Now, going into those people, we also see people that were coming in for asylum.
Wait, real quick, Tyler, can I make sure you clarify? Because you did just bake in two things that I think are being conflated. I think a sanctuary city, which is a ultimate and overall defense of all illegal immigrants, is not the same as you were talking about certain people with deportation orders, probably violent criminals that they weren't deporting, conflating this with the sanctuary cities. I'm just making sure those aren't the same thing.
They aren't the same, but they have the same in spirit. Both of them are rejecting the federal mandate to deport people that the courts ordered need to be deported. And only about 1/3 of those people with deportation orders had any sort of violent conviction. And burglary is listed in there and other things, so it's not all like you punch somebody or whatever. So the violence thing is definitely just a sub point, but 1.44 million valid deportation orders, most of which
I'm going to make Uncle Guns
Garcia, who is a human trafficker and beat his wife. So that shows me that they want them here. They're not deporting the people the courts are telling them this person's valid and needs to go. And then sanctuary cities
for those 2/3 of people that have no violent criminal history, these are the actual individuals that, if you were to deport them, is the actual slavery position. The reason the Democrats are pro-slavery is not that they don't follow the federal mandate to get rid of people who have broken no crime other than crossing a border. The reason that they're pro-slavery is that they support things like the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which is a pro-slavery bill that makes it illegal for people to discriminate against other people based upon their race or their country of origin or their religion, that violates the right of freedom of association, and all of the downstream effects of that, as well as all of the forms of welfare and taxation that they steal from American workers here that have a marginal propensity to consume that's much lower than impoverished immigrants that are coming in that then become welfare leeches. So it is the taxation and the inability of people living here to go, actually, I don't want you in my neighborhood, therefore I'm not going to give you a job and I'm not going to rent you a house because I have a right to associate with the people that I want to associate with. So no, deporting people that have committed no property crimes does not make the Democrats pro-slavery. In that instance, it actually makes the Republicans pro-slavery. It is the horrendous effects of the absolutely evil forms of legislation like welfare and food stamps and the Civil Rights Act that makes the Democrats pro-slavery.
You're using a slightly different definition of slavery than the rest of the panel, I think, in your libertarian stances here.
I'm just stepping back and I'm like, this is somewhat working to my advantage right now.
With Fabian Liberty, whatever Fabian Liberty is saying, it's almost like a form of slavery. You're taking away some agency of theirs, of like the ability to move freely for what seems like not a very good reason. I think that we should
I'll give my definition
have
again.
some, we should have some almost prima facie like justification towards people being in the place that they want to be without an overriding reason. And so, like, I don't know, saying that Democrats or like even the Republicans are not pro-slavery, deporting these people seems to like act as though their life ends once we deport them. Really, their problems just end up not being ours anymore. In reality, they end up having to go back to working in what is probably worse laboring conditions with probably worse rule of law.
What is your argument? Because it feels like at the tail end of your argument there, you kind of waffled on the position. I understand you don't necessarily accept the premise of the slavery thing, but I'm trying to better understand your argument. I don't want to just start yelling at you, Val. Can I get Val to explain it?
Yeah, so it's the deprivation of the agency from the individual is kind of what I'm getting at here. And so I think that you'd agree with me. I think we're both going to be pretty much next to anarchists, where we're going to say something like, let's say it's the case that somebody wants to like cross over some given area in order to like get food or something of the nature. I think we both agree, given that there's no other justification, it would be wrong to stop that person from doing that. You'd be stopping them from exercising their agency.
I mean, if it's my private property, then I should be able to say, no, you can't cross my private property.
Yeah, sure. There might be some like overriding reason. Let's say you're like storing that for like later usage or something like that.
Is like not is public property, which is a contradiction as far as I'm concerned. Okay,
yeah, sure. But like this is what I'm saying essentially is that on my view, I'm not sure I would make such like delineations. It seems to me like what we're making out borders and whatnot is we're making out areas where there's a certain place of force and authority that's used there. And so be that like it like a really large corporation, be that the government, or if you want to call it like some almost like cartel-like entity or something like that, we have this like large state that enforces said rule of law. And I'm not sure that like them saying that they have control over the said territory gives them the right to use physical force to remove others from crossing over that area. Yeah.
Might doesn't make right, but might makes reality, right? If I have the guns,
yeah, exactly.
To behave, you're going to behave even if it's wrong.
Yeah, of course, right. But we can also say that there's something that's immoral about doing that to somebody. There's something that's wrong about doing that. And the thing that I'm getting at is like whenever we're talking about there being some slavery that happens because of the horrid labor conditions these people have to go through, we're almost completely ignoring what has to happen if we end up deporting them. So the moral wrong is still there, and then we also have the removed agency of the individual, and the treating them like almost.
So what you're saying is there's this argument that it's like, oh, these poor factory conditions, and it's like, well, what do you think is going to happen when you forcibly make them go back to Venezuela?
Yeah, if you like take them, throw them in a van, forcibly go them back to exactly. Right. This seems a little bit more like slavery to me than them coming to the United States of America and working for what is an unfair wage.
Yep, I kind of agree. Yeah.
All right. What about the righties over here think here? Do y'all agree with that assessment from our libertarian leaning friends? Soy Pill's over here grinning. I'm kind of like,
everybody's saying my definition's bad or something, but it's like, I think
this is how I saw this going down, but now I kind of want to see what happens. So, answer.
I mean, I'd love to get into why the Civil Rights Act is akin to slavery.
We're coming back. Don't worry, we're coming back.
We'll get back to that now. I mean,
coming back for sure.
I actually did want to say I was going to summarize that in the same way, Val, which is like, yeah, essentially, if you are going to deport someone and claim that their working conditions are akin to slavery, whatever you're deporting them, if it's from America, is almost definitely going to be worse working conditions, which would also be akin to slavery. But yeah.
Well, I don't know that. I want to see how y'all answer. Hold on, but that's not the reason that people get deported, right? The reason that people get deported is they came here illegally. They cross a line they're not supposed to cross. As you know, we can say that it's public property, but we have a series of laws that we've agreed to that say you can't do that.
We agreed to slavery in the 1700s.
True, and we changed that. So like yeah, so if you want to change, if you want to change it to open borders, then by all means, vote for that. But
morality or ethics.
I didn't say anything about morality.
Right,
I said that we've agreed that
you're
there's
saying
a
that
So you're
it's
saying that we
law
ought to remove these
You're
people.
saying
You're saying that we
you're
ought
saying
to
that-
allocate some of our funds, our taxpayer dollars, towards removing these individuals from our country.
well, that's the law.
Yep, you're saying we ought to do so. The enforcement, that's discretion under the
it's
law.
legal positivism is what you're
Right.
you're-
I mean,
you're-
Yeah,
it's
to be
not
very
an
clear,
ought claim.
also to say that it's
Positivism
true.
would mean
Morally,
that
this
you
is
have
what
to-
we
to
ought
beat
do.
slaves
I'm saying that if
that run
the-
away.
Yeah, let
from
Grid
their-
Yeah,
finish.
Morally,
there are a
you
couple
can
other
follow
issues
the
with
law.
you, but like,
Hold on,
yeah.
let Grid finish, and then we're going to Tyler, and then if their answers don't satisfy me, I'm gonna
So
say
I mean,
something.
I'm not making a moral argument here. I'm not making such a claim. I'm saying that we follow the law. We have the law. The law is the law. If you break the law, there are consequences for breaking the law. So the law is that you get deported. It's not. I don't believe that anyone.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
never.
making a descriptive,
Oh.
if you're making
Go
a
ahead.
descriptive argument against a moral claim, and so that doesn't follow. That's
But I
not
don't
an
know.
argument
I don't
against
understand the
claim.
moral
Also,
claim.
when it comes
I'm
to
not- hold on,
descriptive
hold on.
arguments about the truth of the law, I think I take a legal fictionalism. Like, there's clearly things that can be contradictions or views of the law unless we accept there are true
Well,
We're
contradictions.
just
The
confused
law
because you
is
guys
like
started
a-
talking about like
like
the
a
morality
fictional
of like
entity,
working
and so
conditions and what
let's say
happens
it's
when you
like-
get deported. When
I don't
you're
really know how
supposed
that
to have more
justifies
deported.
saying that, yeah, we like
I'm
want
saying that I
compensation
don't.
thing.
I'm saying I don't believe that anyone is saying that it's moral to deport people because they're living like slaves here and send them back to Venezuela. I object to that characterization because I don't believe that's the truth. People are being deported from the United States because they came here illegally. They broke a law. That's why they're being deported. You made a moral claim. I did not. You said that it is
Right,
that
but
we're
you're
But you're saying that
countering
we
the moral
ought
claim.
to,
said,
we
no,
ought to remove them from the country
Let's go to Tyler
because they
and
have
then-
broken the law. We ought to remove them from the country.
I want to hear Tyler's response to this, and then based on what he says, I might just turn back to y'all, or I might jump in.
Or we could just
after.
ask
Okay.
the question: ought we deport people just because they broke?
Well,
something?
hold on, let him go. I'm going to hear him
Yeah.
respond. And
yes,
then
I believe that we should because I believe following the laws.
Okay, well then that's.
well,
the
I think
moral claim.
it's more nuanced than that. But go ahead, Tyler.
No, I'm okay with
My
it.
answer
I'll
might
die
not
on the hill.
satisfy you, Gabe, because it's going to come from the left. So the reason that we have laws, the reason that we have taxation, the reason that we have civil rights legislation is because this is what the people voted on. Our morality, as a rule utilitarian, our morality is somewhat shared between the populace,
I don't know,
what
it
they
sounds like a
want,
bunch of
and
commie
also respecting the
gobbledygook to me.
rules.
Well,
I understand
I'm
you guys don't like
snowman
government, but
I know you don't like that, Fabian.
I see the best and most free way
It's
to
a
run a
Norman
society
Common
is to
I
give
can't
everybody
hear you.
a say.
I'm
Is
sorry.
to give everybody a say through the vote, and then we use the democratic process to elect representatives who set the laws of the country for us. Those laws being enshrined through previous legislation that we can change through further legislation by electing people to do that. We do it all the time. We did it with slavery. When slavery was no longer in vogue and morally wrong, as we saw as a majority, we got rid of it. So that's why all these things exist.
Okay, all
So
right.
it's-
Here's the
so it's
hold on.
good if
No,
51% of people agree?
I'm jumping in because
That's
this
what
is
the nation wants.
Y'all both kind of like hit around it.
If I
but
put
think
10
y'all-
people in a room and 9 people
Hold
vote for
on,
gang
hold on,
rape,
hold
does that
on,
make the gang
hold
rape
on. No,
right?
listen. Okay, Andrew Wilson, we're not doing the fucking rape cages. All right, listen.
I do like that.
I'm just saying, 9 out of 10 people
Hold on,
agree gang rape is great.
Hold on. Let me just.
Dermatologist.
This is why this is the part y'all are missing. Yes, they have the democracy part. Yes, I know the libertarian viewpoint's going to not like that. The issue that you're missing is not just the if they voted, right? It's actually the agency that you just referred to. This is the problem, right? So say first off, you have the people who are trafficked here, sex slavery. Obviously, they don't have agency. They have to give up their agency literally to their literal body if they're giving up sex slaves to the coyotes and all these other people. Two, you have all these indentured workers, like especially in places like California where they do give them things like driver's license. What is happening there is actually they're taking away their agency in a backwards sort of way. So they're giving them their license. They're giving them this quasi gray area of citizenship where, if the Republicans ever gain power, since you broke XYZ law, which I know y'all don't agree to, but we live in the nation of laws, and since that was a democratically elected process, and that's the process we follow, they have to follow this law. So they give them this quasi gray area where you go, you have your driver's license. Oh, you can live in our sanctuary city, but if you ever move from this area or to an area that's Republican held, or if you ever move to an area that and like break a law in a Republican area, or if the Republicans gain power, they're going to come in and they're going to deport you, and it won't matter that you can pay a little portion of taxes here, or you can pay you have your ID because you're not actually a citizen, and we're going to pretend that we're giving you all these benefits, and we're going to do it at the taxpayer's expense. There's the second part of the slavery. So it's like they've made them beholden to them, and they've taken away their agency.
Can I ask? Do you believe the intention is to keep them this way? If so, why are the Democrats continue? Well, why would the Democrats continue to try to fight for a pathway to citizenship if that was the case?
Well, because also, it's twofold, and we can look at it here in the United States as well. And Fabian, you brought this up already with the welfare. The welfare is the same sort of system. You take the money, take the money from one, you put them into a dependency trap. So they're even doing this at the expense of their former voters because they know there's a bigger Latin base, and soon Latins will make up over 50% of the American population, as opposed to the African Americans, are only 13%. So now they're giving away the welfare that they had been giving to the African Americans in some cities like Chicago, and that's why you're seeing backlash against people like in Chicago for some of these illegal immigrants getting those benefits, like these housing and all these things they're promised. It's because, guess what? You're taking your dependency trap away from one group and enslaving another group with it. That's kind of the thing that's going down.
No, but what do you believe the motivation behind this is exactly, other than like, because look, let me explain this. Okay, I'm a dumb. Let me explain it as if I was like a dumb progressive liberal in the Bay Area, as if I was one of those. Okay, so when
you're not
you
in the Bay Area?
I am the Bay Area. That was
the
joke.
Okay.
If you were to come across a average Bay Area person here and say, why are you advocating for driver's license? Why are you advocating for allowing these people to work, allowing them to get on benefits, lifting them up, sanctuary cities, any of these things? Not a single one of these people is going to say, because I want to put them in the dependency trap of the welfare state. The reason they want to is be like, hey, I have compassion for these people and their families. They might have anchor babies here. I want them to be able to operate within the system. They're paying into these systems. They should,
you just described how Democrats are useful idiots.
Hold on.
That's exactly what
so like,
I can only hear one of you guys
this like clandestine. Is this like a clandestine Democrat agenda to?
They're trying to respond more so to the prescribed motivation. But even like so, I think like the people who choose to move here are choosing to make that risk on their own. No, like if we're acknowledging their agency, they choose to make that risk. I don't think that we're putting them in a trap of
sex trafficking.
Yeah, some of them are sex trafficked. I was going to address that at some point. I don't think that anybody here is in favor of sex trafficking or not rescuing people who are sex trafficked, and so I'm not sure that that's going to be a major point of contention. But for like the cases that we are talking about, they do choose to make the choice. Like they choose to get a driver's license. They don't have less agency now that they can legally operate a motor vehicle. They just can now do that thing.
You do because
you do have less agency now.
Yeah. Let me give you an example of how you would have less agency because you've done this now. Right?
Versus not having the ability to operate a motor vehicle.
So if you have no documentation and you have or fake documentation, say you get pulled over and it's good enough in your Texas. Okay, guess what? The officer might let you go. They're going to catch you, or they were catching and releasing you. Under Biden.
It's very unlikely.
But now, if you're in California, if you have a legit ID and they run it in the system, now in Texas we actually look to see if you're a legal citizen or not when they run your ID. And if you have a California ID and it comes back not as a citizen, now you're straight to ICE. So you've now guaranteed.
Yeah, Texas is pretty fucked up for doing that.
Well, I mean,
Texas is pretty fucked up for doing that. I'm not gonna lie, but they probably don't have a fake ID. They're probably not trying to break the rules.
Who's giving you less agency? The one that's entrapping you, or the one that's just following the rules?
Wait, Val, please.
So
this gives the
go ahead,
the example you just give was, they're keeping them in these sanctuary cities and saying, here's this license, but if you ever go out, you're gonna get arrested by these Republican people. But now you're saying like that is what happens. So it is less agency. Like I'm a little confused as to what the mechanism. Well, yeah, you're saying like they're giving these licenses out not because they want these people to have more training for the driving they do and drive without a license. They're not giving them out because they want them to be closer to a citizen so that they can get into these benefits, have more identification.
To be able to go to work.
They're doing it to trap them in Democrat cities so they're scared to leave. Like,
because why? I'll give you another reason: the census.
Admiral Gibbs. So Admiral Gibbs, I think one of the points that I brought up was labor unions. And I think this is a great example to kind of showcase the psychological trap and the way in which Democrats are useful idiots. So Democrats will often believe the most insane thing, which is that they think that they are fighting corporations, despite the fact that they are the party of large corporations and banks, and they are the ones that are against the worker and small businesses and freedom and liberty. And labor unions and their support for labor unions and our NLRB and regulations is a great example of this, because Democrats will vote for for laws that require you be in a labor union, or for strengthening on the NLRB and things of that nature, thinking that what they are doing is they're supporting workers' rights. But everyone that is a large corporation knows that the NLRB and labor unions benefit large corporations and make it so that their job is actually easier. So, for example, in 2022, when there was all of those walkouts and things that GM was going through, GM knows that as a large corporation, what they were able to do is work with the NLRB to get contracts with the the American Auto Union. Is AUW, I can't remember.
Oh,
United Auto
UAW.
Workers.
Yeah, United
Yeah.
Auto Workers.
Right. And so what they can do that small businesses can is take a team of lawyers and take their importance to the economy because of the amount of GDP and things that they're producing, and they can negotiate with the NLRB, and this allows them to get stable contracts where they don't have to worry about the stability of their workers and things like that. And so the labor unions, while those things presumably strengthen workers' rights, what it actually does is it strengthens large corporations. And I think when you understand how the system actually works with liberals, and I mean that like a communist, right? Like I don't mean that like a conservative. I mean that like a fucking
like
liberal,
like the globe.
Yeah, right. Like I mean that in like the most insulting, Okay, who is this person that is coming in and their audio is all fucked up?
The first. Don't worry. We'll get it. Hold on. Go ahead. Finish out your thing.
Okay.
We'll let her finish
Yeah,
the thing.
and so I think the situation can very similarly play out when it comes to the pseudo rights of driver's license, sanctuary cities, and things of that nature, where the left is like, yes, we're voting for Democrats because these people deserve a pathway to citizenship. These people deserve they deserve to be Americans just like us. And corporations and Democrat politicians and billionaire donors and things like that love playing this game of, oh, we'll give you welfare, we'll give you your driver's license, we'll give you, and we'll sprinkle this we'll drag this carrot in front of you, but we won't actually get anything done on DACA. We won't actually get anything there. All of a sudden a few senators and 20 congressmen are gonna like back out at the last minute, and even though they're the politicians that we lobby and we've already bought and paid for. And what ends up happening is you're in this constant liminal space where you have
that's
a dependency
true.
on the very people that you're supposed to be voting
good to
for.
see you, man. Good to see everybody out in the chat. Sorry that
of control.
I wasn't able to really promote this very much. Really appreciate the super chats. Keep them coming in. The grift should flow.
City that you're in,
and go around and spam the heck out of this debate. It's been good so far.
Keep sprinkling opportunities at you and giving you just enough to have your support, to have your voice, and then some of you will get citizenship. Some of you will get, your asylum status, and 4 years later you'll get citizenship and things of that nature. But there is a difference between what the average Democrat thinks they're voting for and what liberals in the halls of power are actually instituting for immigrants. They don't see these as these wonderful people that we need to help. Okay, these politicians don't give a fuck about immigrants coming into this country. They care about their corporate donors, and they care about the fact that big business likes using cheap labor that is in a vulnerable position.
Yeah, so I guess this goes back to my original thing where this kind of creates this dichotomy. Let's say all this is true. Let's say every politician doesn't actually want to grant amnesty. They fake these bills. They know they won't pass. They back out at the last minute. If this is the case, then the Democrats are useful idiots insofar as they have two options before them. One person is on their face presenting a pathway to citizenship and saying, if you support these communities, you should vote for me, which makes perfect sense. And the other says, I'm going to terrorize and deport these people to the extent of everything I can do with the wrath of God. And so I guess, like, even if all of this Machiavellian, like, corporate donor stuff was true, the fact that you're calling them useful idiots when there's only two options, and one of the options is on their face saying all the things that they want to hear, and on their face also presenting bills that get you to there, but are only really getting blocked by Republicans and not the Democrats pulling out every single time. I'm not sure I understand what the impetus behind this is.
One sentence. You're a useful idiot because you think that there's only two choices.
Okay, let's go.
Can I get in for a second? Because I'm going to be the, like, weird person on the left who's going to say the liberals thing. And if it is the case that we're talking about, like, Democrats being in favor of slavery in the sense that, like, you have this dependency upon them, which is also the powers which tell you what you're supposed to do and what the rules of which you're supposed to obey by are. If we're talking about something like that, then, like, yeah, Democrats want you enslaved in the same way that, like, people who run corporations want you enslaved, in the same way that I think also Republicans want you enslaved.
I acknowledge the K2 keep on trucking. Republic Service has been stealing from their scab workers 90 minutes and not paying them while their workers are on strike.
They just have to, like, compete in this never-ending
Republic's
game
huge.
of capitalism
Actually, their corporate office actually offered my wife a job
people from the day they grow up about
because they're trying to buy like 10 companies a year or something.
In that sense, like, there's the slavery on both ends. I don't really see, like,
is liberty and freedom. Capitalism is the height of liberty.
Let me go to
the way that
can I just
the way that it's
go ahead. Let's go to
by corporations is the height of liberty and freedom.
Well, we'll come back. We're going to come back. Let's get a little far. Well, let's go to
I feel like we're getting kind of far afield here.
I'm going to be referring to capitalism, probably with a larger definition than you're going to be wanting to refer to capitalism.
Yeah, if you want to use the Marxist definition, that's fine. I'll say laissez-faire capitalism.
Let's move away from that for a second. Let's go to Grid and Tyler, because I see them both trying to get Grid. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, sure, that was interesting. Soy Pill. I owned a house in the Bay Area for a while. I technically I didn't live there, but I owned a house there. I visited there quite a bit, and I understand that.
Get the guillotines, boys. It's a.
I know, right? And I kind of understand the mentality that you're talking about, but I also understand that vast communities of people who came here legally are really infuriated by the very actions you're talking about, by this I don't know, like, I don't think it's a healthy thing to just grant people citizenship, or grant them driver's licenses, or granting them whatever. I don't think that's necessarily a healthy thing for the community. And maybe, I don't know. I'm sure that there's some study somewhere that Tyler probably is, like, ready to throw out at us because that's what he does. I don't do that. But it's weird to hear the justification for this be, well, it's just more convenient. It's
no,
just,
so it's not just more convenient. So I do want to address what you're saying, Grid, because one, this is absolutely true.
Do. And I'm not talking
any of the immigrants in this place.
I'm sorry, I'm not coming at you. I just am really trying to understand why you think this is a good thing. And I'm trying to be much shorter about it than Scott. Scott was perfectly correct. Like, I'm going to be honest, Scott, you've lost weight. Your mind is sharp as a fucking razor, man. Like, I'm amazed at how clear and sharp you are. So
thank you.
You're a force to be reckoned. You were badass before, but you're a force now, man. So Scott was perfectly correct. I don't want to take anything away from his argument. I just think it was a little esoteric, and I'm trying to get more down in the trenches a little bit with you, Soy Pill. And I just want to understand why you think it's a good thing.
I'm trying to explain this. So the idea that immigrants who see illegal immigrants kind of getting what they got without going through all the process and being upset by that makes perfect sense. I mean, you'll see that even with people like who were granted amnesty by Reagan, who now feel that way about illegal immigrants. Now, whether or not they feel valid for that is up in the air for me. I don't really care what if they're like, hey, fuck you, got mine. My problem is this. There are, I mean, Tyler will say the bigger number. My understanding is there are 11 million illegal immigrants in this country. A lot of them, I think 78% of them are working in the workforce. And if we're going to do something about this, like, we talk about, hey, this could put a strain on the economy. This can undercut wages. Sure. This can be slavery conditions. It makes the most sense to me not to deport them, because my understanding is the cost to deport them is in the hundreds of billions of dollars to round up, track all these people down and get them out. Because yes, they broke the border law. It doesn't necessarily make so much sense. They are already entrenched in these communities in so many places. They have kids that are legal immigrants because of the citizenship, birthright citizenship. And at this point, it does not make sense. Economically, it does not make sense morally to me, just in terms of like splitting families apart, to do mass deportations. What makes sense to me is let's find a way for these people to do everything they can to follow the law, which is get a tax number, pay their taxes, and work within the system, which will get rid of the employee abuses. But if you notice, a lot of these bills, so I think they introduced one in July this year. They introduced according to Fabian, these are all smoke and mirrors to just say, hey, these are never going to pass. Fuck you, useful idiot. But if they were to pass, they also come with tighter border restrictions, because you can't just grant amnesty to everyone and keep a border as lax as it sometimes is, because that means you're going to get much people coming in. Next wave of amnesty. Next wave of amnesty.
A little bit of clarification here. So you're saying that everyone in the country right now, you're cool with like some program to get them to citizenship, but no more.
To be clear, not every single person.
Up,
obviously, there are violent criminals, sex traffickers, any of those people. I think it's totally valid kicking people out. They already shouldn't be here, and they're making the place worse.
Everyone that's not a bad person that's here illegally,
the vast majority of people here who are already entrenched in these communities, working and contribute. Like,
what would you consider entrenched in the community?
Right, so like their kids go to school here, speak English, are legal citizens, are working. Like you've got a whole family of people that operate outside of maybe one of these factories or any of these. Sorry,
yeah, people can do that after a month. I don't consider that entrenched.
Right. So when I say entrenched, having a baby here that goes through the school system and a family here, like if you're here and you've been here for like a month and you overstayed a work visa or you just hopped the border, like I understand turning these people back, throwing them back.
Where do you draw the line?
Probably makes sense.
Just curious.
I think if you look at the bill itself, there were certain time requirements of like how long you've been here, whether or not you have family here.
They're here illegally. So how do we establish that?
It's arbitrary because he has a contradictory philosophy.
Hold on, let me finish, and you can tell me what I'm contradictory.
Right. Whatever
necessarily, right? Because if you look at like the Obama numbers of everyone calls him deporter in chief, like a lot of these things are just like, hey, you're showing up at the border, trying to cross illegally, get out, right? Most illegal immigrants are overstayed visas. So if it's someone that's been here for a couple weeks, and you have a deportation,
it's not that anymore. That's important to know.
Is that post 23?
I'm not sure that
regardless. If there are people I don't know exactly, I can't tell you exactly it's a year and 1 day, a year and 2 days, but there are pretty clear if you brought this to me on a case-by-case basis, I'm not saying this is how we operate this, but if you showed me hey, here's someone with 3 kids, they're 14 years old each, and they all have legal citizenship and are working, and their parent has been in this community for 20 years. But it doesn't really make sense to spend the money.
How the system is set up to work anyway? They go have these here, they get arrested, have these hearings. If they have some tie to the community, that's considered. But if they have a tie to the community, but they haven't been here very long, then they're eligible for deportation.
And more or less. But the problem is I'm arguing against mass deportation.
So now I need an understanding. What do you want to change? If it already works like that,
I want to offer Tyler. I want to offer pathways to citizenship so that they can pay more taxes and not get abused.
But there's a pathway to citizenship already. What you're saying is basically you're saying that just what I hear, and I could be wrong. That's why I'm kind of pushing you on this a little bit. What I hear is, because I say so, then so it shall be.
What do you mean? Like with the morality, or what do you mean?
because
You
you
haven't made a moral
because
argument.
because you just have this arbitrary
Just
like
claim
I
it.
want it to be different than what it is right now, but the way that I want it to be different than it is right now is the way it is right now.
No,
You just
so right,
don't like the
would
way
you
it is
would
right
you
now.
agree that there are illegal immigrants that are undercutting American workers' wages by being
Absolutely.
paid sub? Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I don't like that. I don't like
Okay.
one, that it hurts the American worker, and I don't like two, that it's abusing the illegal
Well,
immigrant. I think that those people should
all
be
475
naturalized, right? So
people that were arrested September the 5th in Georgia at the Hyundai plant, every single one of them should be sent back to South Korea.
right. So again, I don't know the exact facts. It seems like some of these people were here legally, but let's just say they were all illegal and they were all just shipped
Sure.
in from like the South Korean
Yeah.
company. Yeah,
Well, they
that would
wouldn't
make
have been
sense.
arrested if they weren't
These are
here
not
legally.
entrenched in community people. These are, like you said, they're not here to make a life in America. These are people who were abused in Korea, lied to perhaps, and then abused here as well, right? So that does not make sense to me. What I'm talking about
Okay.
is the vast majority of the illegal immigrants who are working here, like, in the system, who are potentially getting paid under the table, not paying taxes, maybe using a TIN or an SSN that they stole from someone so that those persons
We
can get
have
their
the
Social
system for
Security
that.
benefits.
We have immigration court. We have a pathway.
It's
The pathway, you may not
very
like it,
robust.
you may
and
not
it's
consider
there's a reason why there's still 11 million
Some
illegals.
oversteps
A lot of these people
recently,
want to be
even.
naturalized, but they do not have time.
I mean, you may
effort,
not
or,
like the
actual
system, but the system exists. So I'm trying to understand what you want changed about the system, because you say we need
So,
to put this
for
in
example,
place.
Reagan was
He
able to
just
do
wants
this
to steal
mass
more
amnesty
taxes
thing.
so
right?
we can do it.
Right. Well, that's what I'm hearing. What I'm
just-
hearing is
Yes,
we need to
I
make
do-
it bigger.
Money
We need to
from
make
you
it
so that we can
bigger
have more
and better.
judges,
And
so that we can get more people to get their citizenship. So
Yeah,
they can vote
Fabian, I don't like the
Democrat.
framing,
All
but
of
you're
the
100% right. Yes, I do want to
crazy
put more
amounts
money
of
into
money
it.
that you're throwing towards tracking all of these people down, or just trying to live their life, and throw.
I
that
would rather
towards
have
the
ICE
basic
agents
part.
Hold on.
tracking down
Well, hold
every
on.
single
Hold
sitting
on.
around eating donuts.
Hold
and
on, let me
drinking
go.
coffee.
Let me go to Tyler
Infinitely
here.
better idea.
Well, I just want to ask you, Val, just because you're saying that, right? You're saying all
kind
those
of a fair
millions of dollars.
argument.
Okay, interesting. It's interesting,
I'm
right?
being a
I
little
like.
tongue-in-cheek.
Give,
clearly.
I mean, give it back, but
Well, sure, but I mean, the argument
Being a
would
little
be.
tongue-in-cheek.
I mean, the argument that the Trump admin would be is if we're saving money elsewhere, like I don't know, and with Doge, where you mean the government efficiency, the money that was
didn't
being.
seem
Hold on.
incredibly successful. from
Sure.
my
I mean,
end.
I don't know. We'll see, but we'll see how it's
But,
going. But like the argument that he's
Yeah,
made
I
is.
mean,
pro-Trump.
we might have some disputes on
Oh,
that, but,
oh,
I
the
love it.
argument.
Neither of
the
those
ar-
seem to be getting around very well
Yeah.
together. So
You
Yeah,
need to
but just
turn
hear
your
me out,
mic
hear me out. The
down a little
argument-
bit. It's kind of breaking up or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Your
got a
mic's
little
clicking
high
a
there.
lot, Val.
But here's the argument that like I would that the Trumpies would make, and then I'm gonna give it to Tyler, and then y'all can object to both or whatever we just say here. Is basically with Doge and cutting all these programs, they're going to save money. Also with programs like the new gold card, the Trump card, where they pay $5 million and they've already had 50,000 people. The money from that and this other money that's already been stolen, Fabian, it's already stolen, right? Yeah, and the terms of libertarian.
You can give back stolen money,
Sure,
motherfucker.
you can,
don't
but
have
you
to
know,
spend it.
but yeah, but
Probably
no
should.
government. But listen, no government ever.
should give back stolen money.
Listen, I would like a check in my bank account too, but that's never going to happen. You know it, I know it. But what the Trump admin is saying is we're going to take this money and we're going to use it along with other money that we're going to, build to get rid of these people, and life's going to be better, right? Because XYZ. So it's not like, oh, they're just spending all this money. Like, it's like if we took away all the welfare and they got rid of them, then you wouldn't have this excess. Now, would you? But let's go to Tyler, because that's the number one expense.
All right. So I got a lot. I've been kind of refining my notes and sharpening them as I waited this last 40 minutes. The reason I like laws is the same reason I like the dictionary.
Yell more.
Because
Yell louder.
am I yelling?
It's
You should.
clicking
I'm
a bit.
saying yell more.
Oh no!
I'm
I
saying
don't
yell.
No! You guys are having a good conversation. I'm enjoying
You
it.
just
I
be
don't
like,
want to
shut
interrupt.
up. I have something to say.
No! You guys are doing.
I believe
enjoyed
in
it.
you.
I enjoyed it. I didn't want to interrupt. So, but I had some time. So the reason I like laws and rules is the same reason I like the dictionary, because they provide some sort of set in stone rules and structure. Now, if you look at the dictionary definition of slavery, it is not when the government slightly oversteps on your rights, like the civil rights legislation or taxation. It's when they put you into compelled labor, forcing you against your will. What the democracy
Taxation. Got
does...
it.
Yeah, well, hold on. What democracy does is gives us a process where everyone gets to voice their own personal... A bunch of individuals get together and get to voice their own personal opinion, and we take the majority. When you participate in this game, you also
Gang rape. Got it.
that sometimes you're going to lose that. Gang rape's illegal because we decided that's a bad thing as a society through our laws and legislation. Something that
I
without
don't know,
a
man.
government...
9 out of 10 people agree gang rape's
Yeah.
great.
Something that without a government. So at the end of the day, though, even if you're a minarchist, I think it's called, a minimal anarchist of some sort, you can maybe agree that if there is a single function of government, it's to protect our borders. Maybe.
I mean, it is in the
A
Constitution.
night watchman state or a minarchist would believe that protecting borders, national defense, treaties, and maintaining the monopoly on the judicial process. And the law.
So if we made an asylum
that's what
treaty,
they would agree. That's not me. So I don't.
I'm just saying hypothetically. Yeah, I'm just saying hypothetically, if you're giving the government anything, the first thing that anyone would give it is border protection. Even as an anarchist, it would be okay. Secure the borders. Let us do what we want over here.
Yeah. I'm happy and on borders for that very reason, because I feel like there are other things we have to tackle first.
Yeah. But that being said, if we have an asylum treaty with another nation, that asylum treaty has very strict criteria, and not only are we ignoring that criteria and letting people in that don't qualify, but when we realize they don't qualify, we're failing to deport them, is that not government failing its basic structure of protecting its?
Well, when you say protecting its people, you're implying that like there's some massive detriment to having illegal immigrants here, which I would reject holistically. I think the biggest thing you could point to is that, well, the problem is that you're baking in this idea that like this is like the invasion argument. It's like this is an invasion.
No. You're talking about violence. I'm saying protecting the rights, will, and voice of the people. The people agreed to the criteria of the treaty. So if you go beyond the treaty, you're going beyond what the voice of the people made your mandate. So you're protecting. You're
contracts are not valid. Contracts are not valid if the contract requires the violation of human rights. It's an invalid contract. There's my argument.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is what asylum is if somebody's human rights are being infringed, we open our borders and let them in. But if we find out 80% of people using the credible fear clause are actually just here for economic opportunity, and they're abusing that specific asylum system to get in, would it not be the primary role of the government to remove them, to respect the people's wishes in that asylum legislation and treaty?
If the people give a fuck about the people's wishes, again,
Fabian would disagree totally, and I would disagree on the fact that like if the people are voting for mass deportations, which was what happened when Trump got elected, then yeah, of course. And if the people are voting for amnesty, which is what the Democratic politicians that are voted on by Democrats are proposing in the Senate, then of course that's what they want. Like, why does it matter whether or not you're talking about the definition of a country and the people that exist in it is, I think, completely irrelevant. You got to look at what the parties are proposing.
Well, I don't think it's completely irrelevant. I do think that we need to work within a framework of the laws. I mean, you just mentioned changing the laws, but you don't want but it seems like you don't want those laws enforced, and
this is like Fabian's point, right? Like, not you have 9/10 of the people in the room, with the gang rape or whatever, but like here it's
I'm sure
majority of voters voted for Trump,
Khan,
and a bunch of them didn't vote for Trump. A bunch of them don't want mass deportations.
I'm going to say that Genghis Khan probably had 9 dudes in a room, and they all voted for gang rape.
That's why democracy is evil. You got it.
I'm just saying. I mean, I'm sure that's exactly what happened.
You're getting it soy pilled. Come on.
Wait, buddy. Fabian, what's your preferred form of government? Is it anarcho-libertarianism or
anarcho-capitalism, baby?
Anarcho-capitalism. I'm an ANCAP as far as we're just talking.
Okay,
about
I didn't want to get into it. I was just curious. What's the last?
But I consider myself an anarcho.
Do a little housekeeping real quick. Malakat's supposed to be here, and let's see if their mic is working now. And our other individual Val had to drop out. They are feeling ill, so they were filling anyway. So thanks for filling in for as long as you could.
I heard their keyboard and their mouse. They weren't feeling ill. They were losing. They were on a losing streak.
Nah, they messaged me literally like 30 seconds after the panel started. They're like, "Hey, just so you know, I'm not feeling good. I might have to drop." I will give them credit for that. So they were enjoying the conversation for sure. They were surprised that y'all were agreeing.
We got kicked back down to Bronze League, and they're like, "Hold on, I gotta focus."
Yeah, something like that. No, they were very surprised that y'all were agreeing on stuff. So yeah, but Malakat, is your mic working now?
Yeah, you're muted.
All right. Well, I'll wait till they message me again. Okay. We'll get back to it then. Let's go back to what we were talking about. Sorry about that little housekeeping update.
That's right.
It's always fun these be streaming. Sometimes things work out real organized, sometimes they don't. But we're moving on. Yeah, I do find this interesting that are you denying the like what's it called, the entrapment kind of theory here? Like, is that because originally, Fabian, you seemed like you were pretty on board with Soy and Val in your position, but then after I brought up the entrapment, how it's the same as the welfare, then it seemed like you softened some on it.
I haven't softened or changed my opinion. In fact, I was the first one to bring up the welfare dependency trap as one of the 10 arguments.
Sure. Yes, I understand that. That's why I was comparing the other one to that.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, it is a dependency trap in a certain way. But there's a difference between discussing the state's rights violation of humans' autonomy versus the systems and institutions that are designed to use the law to abuse and psychologically move people in towards a dependency trap. Like these are two different things. At the individual level, right? Deporting someone who has not violated anyone's bodily autonomy, right? So if you are an illegal immigrant that has not done any property damage and has not attacked anyone in any way, shape, or form, the state is the aggressor if they deport this person. I don't give a fuck about some stupid fucking law that says that if you cross an imaginary line, that makes you bad.
Is trespassing a bad thing?
You can't trespass on public property because public property is already a violation of human rights by the state.
But all that border property,
Bill, you can't win here, right?
Property, right?
I thought I was winning. Oh no,
if you trespass against someone who has property on the southern border, right, private property, and you then that's a property crime.
That's an imaginary line to me.
No, it's not. It's a line that has a first user principle with one owner. There's a logic. It has been intersubjectively communicated.
So you don't think a town can own property?
No.
Okay.
Property can only have one owner. Period.
I got
anytime you say property has more than one owner, then it becomes contradictory because what property is the exclusive right to utilize that material as you see fit. So public property is a contradiction because it claims to be ethical, but it is conflict inducing because it's a scarce resource. And the moment people wish to use scarce resources towards opposing means, public property has no means of settling the conflict that it created. Whereas private property is conflict reducing. It's an ethical system.
In your system, if somebody a private company or entity went and bought all of the land, like a miles of the entire southern border across the country, and put an armed private military there, and any illegal immigrants stepped foot on it, they shot them, that'd be cool?
Well, that wouldn't be following the gentleness principle, right? So you don't get to just shoot people just because they happen to stumble upon your property.
Okay, well, shooting is the end of that.
Yeah, they have the right to say, get off my property. And then they say, no, I'm going to cross your property anyways. And they go, get off my property. I'm going to fucking shoot you. And then they go, fuck you. I have a right to be here. Then, yeah.
What about landmines? Can I should I be able to put landmines on my private property? Just out of curiosity.
Come on. Hey, actually, so I want to steer this back a little bit.
Becomes an aggressive
because this is fascinating. This
I'm just curious. But yeah, I just have to know.
This is absolutely fascinating. So, I understand Scott's viewpoint on it. I don't actually disagree with the public versus private property principle. I've always wondered why we have the government invested in so much land, and that doesn't seem like
just
a
think
really
of it
good
this
thing.
way. I think I can make this make a little more sense, right? When Oregon legalized decriminalized drug usage, right? A lot of libertarians were super happy. They were like, oh my God, it's so great. This is a win against the drug war. And I knew that it was going to be a problem. I knew that this wasn't going to turn out well. And it turned out so poorly that even Democrats reversed their position and are starting to return back to a certain aspect of the war on drugs. And you go, well, what is the problem here? The problem here is public property. And the reason public property is the problem here is the moment that you decriminalize drug usage, well, now you have druggies at your fucking parks. You have druggies on the side of the road. You have this property that belongs ostensibly to everyone. And then you have families that are like, I don't want to walk out of my apartment and see people.
This would be a great conversation, right? Because I have, so where do you, I mean, I really want to talk to you someday about like free use, free use roads, free, paths across private property that are open to just anyone. I really want to dig into that. I don't think it's very useful in this particular conversation, but I'm fascinated.
I mean, the topic is on slavery, so if you invite an ANCAP to talk about whether or not politicians support slavery, I'm going to talk about ANCAP.
Because now that we're like fully into libertarian brain rot, can we go back to the civil rights being slavery? Because I actually really am curious.
Actually, before we do that, I wasn't really. I still wanted to. I'm still trying to understand Soy Pill's point of view here. And I don't understand what a a long enough term of time is. I don't understand that. I don't know how we quantify that. Although apparently
Sure.
we do have a system in place that does that already. But when we
I'm
say,
gonna
let's just say, like,
I'm gonna
I'll
let
just
you
pick a
finish
random
going
number.
through
I
answer,
have
and I
not.
want to.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll just pick a random number. Let's just say it's like if you're here for less than a year and you have no,
I can only hear
if you're here for less than a year, you have no entrenchments in the community, you don't have
Mhm.
children here, you don't have family here, and it's just like, hey, you just came here to work and you overstayed your visa, get the fuck out. Yeah, okay, whatever. Like that's just an arbitrary thing I'm picking out of my ass, but like
2 years
obviously you
you're
could
good.
draw a line there.
Yeah,
Huh?
2 years you draw the line. They're good.
Yeah, like
Stay.
something reasonable where it's like clearly there's a difference where
So-
like someone like me or you could look at this and say
Mhm.
this person is not just some
So
guy
why do
that's
you
been
wanna-
here like these like
I don't
Korean
know what the
people
exact.
here.
I don't know what the exact terms are for people who enter illegally and then apply for citizenship and all of that. I didn't go down that specific well very deeply, but I do know that there's a system in place. There are immigration lawyers. There's all kinds of things that.
Well,
that-
it's a
that
very
help you
slow
do that.
process, Grid. And just to put it into perspective,
Well, I mean,
the
should
amount of
it be
people
a
we
fast
naturalize
process?
legally, I think it should, right? Because if these people are coming here and they're willing to work, like why shouldn't they be paying the taxes and doing
Because
it
we get
legally?
what
Why
we
should
had
they?
just about
Like
2 weeks ago, where a person who came here and from another country, and they were given a job and given a CDL driver's license and a job driving a truck, and
are we
the
talking about the Indian guy who,
dumbass
like did like an
tried
illegal
to do a
U-turn or
U-turn
whatever?
on the highway and killed
Yes, that
3
sounds like it.
Americans.
Okay.
So
So
this is
if you're
why.
arguing that I think we should make it easier to become a citizen is not, hey, people who can't drive should be given driver's license. I think the driving license standards in this country are way too lax, and anyone, legal immigrants
Well,
included,
no,
should
I'm
be
saying
given.
that you said that they should just be able to come in and immediately go to work and immediately do all these things, and this is exactly.
No,
what
I'm saying the pathway to citizenship should not be so difficult. The reason I wanted to bring this up was I think the amount of people we naturalize completely, not illegal immigrants, like just people that came here to work, especially these very high skill people that like all these scientists I know in the Bay Area, it's like less than 1 million a year, which I do not think is enough given how many people are here who are working, like trying to make a better life for themselves, as you put it, and are actually like contributing massively to our infrastructure. Now, necessarily, a lot of these illegal immigrants are not these high skilled laborers. They're, like we said, construction, agriculture. But if they're already here, if they're already doing this, I wanted to make it as easy as possible to stop them from getting workers' rights abuses and pay into the system the way they're supposed to. That's all I'm saying. Not that they should be given driver's license like candy and they shouldn't be tested. I think there should be a good vetting process as well. I'm just saying it's way too difficult right now to naturalize people. There are paths, but it is not enough.
I feel like it
as
should be
Fabian
difficult.
so rightly put it, we should steal more money from people to make it easier.
Yeah,
Let's
I
go-
just
all right, here's
don't,
what we-
I don't hear rationalization for it being easier. The stumbling block is I think it's hard for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, other than that we want people to kind of like earn it almost, right? Like it's not something that's just handed out like candy in a supermarket. But what I hear, and that's what I hear you kind of saying is like, well, it should
Grid,
just be,
let me explain, right?
rubber
Because
stamp.
the dichotomy here is not either we deport them all or we immediately make it
I'm
as
not
easy as
drawing
possible
that.
to. No, I know. I'm just letting you know because they're already here, because they're working, and because they are getting abused. I want them to have an easier path to stop that abuse. That is what I'm saying. Not it should just be easy. You come over the border, you immediately get a job, you're immediately naturalized. There might as well not be a border. I'm saying that there already are 11 million people here, if not more, if we're not counting. I know Tyler says it's a bigger number. If these people are already here, already working, and already being abused,
don't tell
we should
Corey
as
that,
fast as
because
possible rectify the
he'll
situation
say
because
that you're wrong.
Let me
Don't
hold
tell Corey.
on. A little housekeeping. We're gonna go to Tyler,
Being funny.
and
Sorry.
then he's gonna go, and then I'm gonna let Malakat jump in with any thoughts so far, and then what we are gonna do right after that. So don't know anybody respond unless you say something outrageous. We're gonna go to the civil rights thing because I think we need to come back to that. Like
I need to know.
we gotta dive into that some. So go ahead, Tyler.
Soy and I are going to be on the same side for the civil rights thing, but let me address what you said, then I'll go to Scott real quick. So I kind of see your demand for change, and I get it, but you have to admit, until that change occurs, that every chance to deport somebody that has a judge-ordered deportation order is ignoring federal law and ignoring the will of the judges. And then we also see judges using their back door to help illegal immigrants escape that are already certified for deportation. One judge had 2 Tren de Aragua members living at his home. He gave them guns that were used in a shooting. I'd say it's a little bit more than just wanting them to stay here, because until that change you want occurs,
That's wild.
I know, right?
I haven't
They
heard about
are.
that one.
Yeah, I'll send you the link after. They are indentured servants at this point, is kind of the point we're arguing. I get your desire to change, but that change hasn't happened yet. So this is their current status. And I get also what you're saying. There's 11 million here. It's a pain in the ass to deport them. But again, I am a fan of the rules. We have all these laws in the books for a reason. And there's 17 million people waiting in line that did everything right that are now being put to the back line so we can let people come in here illegally. And that, to me, until you say no more illegals, we have to cut it off. Scott, I got something for you, too. This is a bone. This is an accelerationist bone that I think once you get into the practical, you might be here.
The exact opposite.
You might be here because in the practical, because not for the ideology, leaving that and more going to how the system actually functions today. If we kick out all the illegal immigrants and in place bring in legal immigrants for every single one, all of them get proper wages, they get proper regulations, they're taxed the right way, they worker consumption and protection, and they're part of the welfare model to the full extent. That
Using
then puts onus
in front of socialist shit doesn't.
Yeah, I'm just saying that then puts the onus on all of those systems to now they aren't going to these people because they're here illegally. That's what makes them this second-class citizen in my mind. Now they have access to all these things. That puts a massive amount of stress on these things, and it makes it so we have to reanalyze it. They're like saying, we can't kick out the people that are picking your strawberries because then you're going to pay somebody $15 an hour to pick strawberries, and they're going to have all these protections that we give all of our workers, and that'll just screw up the prices and cause inflation. All you're going to see then, when that happens, if we actually kick out all the illegals, then all these people are making $15 an hour, have all these worker protections. It makes the costs go up. Thus, the public now goes after all these regulations that are in place because they're no longer functioning because we no longer have that second class working.
Yeah, I don't want to violate the rights of millions of people based off of my ability to be a seer and predict the future.
I'm just saying it would cause an acceleration of pushback against a lot of things you don't like. Because currently we're skipping all those. All these people don't have access.
I'm also against accelerationism. That's why the channel name is Fabian Liberty. It's a spin on the Fabian Society in the UK.
It would achieve your goals in this case, I feel like.
Let's go to Malakat here. What are your thoughts so far? Cool. Have you been able to keep up? And then we're going to go to the civil rights thing. What are your thoughts?
Sorry, I was trying to get through starting up my stream. But I kind of heard right now about protections of workers and things of that sort. I apologize that I wasn't up to date. But if you want to give me a TDLR.
Yeah, we can just jump into. We'll just jump into the next thing. I think
that was for Scott specifically. Yeah.
That was kind of a back and forth. All right, so Scott, we'll come back to you in a second because I feel like Scott's about to hit us with some stuff that a lot of people are about to object to. So I'm sure you can start yelling. Then go ahead and tell us your civil rights thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that crazy or complicated of an argument. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is obviously and patently a violation of human rights. Is there any argument against that? Does anybody have an argument against that?
Well, just to be clear, when you say violation of human rights, it's like you're saying it violates people's freedom of association because they can't choose to not associate. So I think obviously the argument against it, especially if you look at it in historical context, is if you as a single person wanted to, I think, by the way, this is going to sound crazy. I mean, this is your argument. My audience is going to be like, are you seriously saying this? If you as a singular person said, I do not want to associate or do business with this person because of their race, that in isolation is probably fine, and violating that is like this, like, you know, okay, like I'm thought policing you, I'm not allowing to be racist. Like that's wild, right? Like, yeah, you're a bigot, but why is the state allowed to tell you not to be a bigot? That's crazy. The reason it exists in the way it does, though, is not because individual people are now like limited from this freedom. It's because entire swaths of the population were able to exclude an entire race of people from their business from this. So in not doing that, you're violating those people's freedom to exist in the society, and you need that protection for those people because of the historical context, not because they specifically want to violate your ability to associate with a racist person.
There's two things here, right? I don't necessarily care about the kind of like consequential analysis or via like a framing of history, but that's just like not true. Like the state was violating a lot of people's rights. And those aspects of the Civil Rights Act are perfectly fine, right? I have no issue with the federal government saying that insofar as the state exists, it shouldn't be, we shouldn't have Jim Crow laws or, the state mandated that. There was plenty of companies whose rights were violated by Jim Crow laws that wanted to do business with black people, that wanted them, that wanted to end segregation because it was more profitable to do so. But this idea that there was these large swaths, completely freely associating, it's just bad economics. It's just a bad idea to exclude 13% of the population from your business.
No, it is. You're not wrong, but they still did this. I mean, have you heard of like sundown towns? Have you heard of like a mandatory non-regulated? Sorry, what's the term of segregation where it's like free association segregation or whatever? It's like, hey, we're just not going to hire black people. Like this stuff absolutely happened, and this is the reason why with the the gay cake thing
to do that. Yeah, people should be
no,
free
you
to,
should not be
to,
free to be a fucking bigot, like straight up.
Okay.
Like
So you're
you
pro-slavery. So you agree with
That's
my
like
argument. You're
saying, I don't
pro-slavery.
like gay people. I don't like you because you're a white person. I don't want to associate you with you because you're a white person. That's saying the exact.
I would much rather know that. I would much rather know that, right? I don't want secret racists at the restaurant spitting in my food because they're not legally allowed to say that I don't want white people in my restaurant. I want a big sign that says no crack. Sorry, I almost said it. I forgot that's a Twitch thing.
No, it's a restaurant. It's a restaurant. They just don't serve crackers.
Yeah, we're going to
We're out of soup crackers. We're out of soup crackers. Right?
You just changed the logos.
I want to see that. I want to see that, and I want to know, like, okay, that restaurant's food probably a little too spicy for my white tummy. I'm gonna go to the next place. You know what I mean? And like that's what I want. What I don't want is secret racists that legally aren't allowed to discriminate that then hate me. That I'm living amongst people that hate me. Like if you hate me, tell me you hate me, and I'll make sure to freely associate with people who don't fucking hate me.
Fabian, the question though is, don't you understand that yes, it is technically a violation of your rights of association to say you can't discriminate against black person?
Technically,
I understand
it actually is.
Okay, yes, okay, factually is, whatever. The point is, if enough people do this and enough of a community or an extensive part of that city, you are now doing that to black people, right? You are violating their ability to associate and exist in your society. And so, yeah, obviously, if we want to live in this perfect world where it's like,
right, yeah.
So to violate the rights of other people,
says we don't want black people in our town, right? Then that black person can go live somewhere.
What if they can't? Is the point, right? Like if they already live in this town, now you're saying, okay, now we're forcing you to spend money to move. We're forcing you to excise from your school.
How many viewers you got right now? How many viewers you got right now?
212.
Okay, 212 people. Is there anybody in those 212 in your community that wants to live in a sundown town? Or would we go ahead and assume all 212 right now, just in your community, would be willing to move somewhere where black people are allowed?
Fabian, I don't know if you just don't know like the history of this, but like when people did this like associative racism, it wasn't like, well, we already have this pure white state and we're just going to like there's black people already in these places, or black people just trying to move and make a better life, and that's just like one of their only options because you can't just teleport wherever. You don't have unlimited bankroll to do whatever you want, and now suddenly a chunk of the country says you can't be here. That is, in some sense, I would hope that you would say a violation of their autonomy because they are incapable of going other places.
Of course not. If it's their private property and they say you can't come here, then that's obviously not a violation of anyone's rights to exclude someone from their own private property.
So like if everyone in the country, or let's just make it a little more obvious, right? Let's say you live in a rural area and you do not have the funds to move into the big city. You literally cannot afford it. So you live on the outskirts of a town, and that entire town decides no black people at my business. And you're the black people that live on the outskirts, right? Now you do not have the option to move, and you've been excised from the ability to, this is like, in the same way you might, I would think you would be against like debanking, maybe you're for debanking. I don't know. You're now unable to exist. You can't buy food. You can't go to the doctor. Like these people who have private businesses that are integral pieces of your society are saying, nope, you're not allowed to exist in it, and you don't have the option to leave. How is that not a violation of your autonomy?
So first of all, it's not a violation of your autonomy to be forced to have other people enslaved to you, right? Like it's not a violation of your autonomy that the government doesn't step in and tell other people that they have to behave a certain way or else. Right, that would be a violation of like
even if it kills
insane.
you.
Wait, why is
We
this
need
any
to
different than?
because
Hold on,
if
hold on.
there's
You can't
Why
buy
is this?
food. If you
where,
can't
like-
buy food, if you can't go to the doctor, if you can't
actually, Soy Pill's bringing up something I kind of touched on right just now. What's the difference between this and me land mining my land? Is that not an aggressive act? Like by your own definition,
well,
like
land mining your land, right, is in such a way where
it's
your
my land.
property
Why do you have
is
to worry about them
inviting-
coming on it? Like, I guess this is my argument that I'm making with this because I'm not really sure how I feel. I'm kind of just listening here, but it sounds to me like it's the same argument. If I own my land and I land mine it, you told me that's an aggressive act. Like I don't have the right to land mine it, even though I own it. And if you come on it and I put up signs saying "Walk on my land, you're gonna die," there's landmines, and you walk on
No,
it
that's
anyway.
different.
Well,
That's different.
okay.
Because now
So that's
you've made people aware that your property line
okay,
is a certain place.
so
You were
that's
talking
that's
about-
fine.
You were talking
Okay,
about
let me just
buying
keep
a
going
strip
then.
of the border.
Okay, that's fine.
And then
Okay,
letting people walk into
let's just trap. Okay, let's move back. If I just have a fence up, but I don't have that, there's landmines. Is that a trap then?
Oh yeah, perfectly. No, that's perfectly fine because you've intersubjectively
Okay,
communicated.
so I'm
your
trying to
property.
figure out at what line it becomes something else because now we go to the community level, right?
Well,
and
I'm
you go,
explaining it to you.
okay,
I'm
you're
explaining
right.
it to you.
You're saying,
so
saying
property.
these people that live here and own property. Now they own property. They owned it.
Will you acknowledge that you were wrong in your assumptions of what I meant by property lines?
I don't know what. I'm not
that's
making any
aggressive
assumptions.
act?
That's why I'm asking questions. I'm trying to find out in my Gibbs brain where the line is. So now we're moving to the prop. Like, okay, if I own property and I'm part of a community, I've chose to be here. My grandparents chose, and now a democratic community, which you're already kind of against, right? Says, hey, we're gonna make Jim Crow laws or whatever we're gonna call them.
If it's all
you're gonna be
voluntary, it's
excluded.
fine. So, for example, right, like we have Amish that live in this country, right? Do you think a law should come in that says that the Amish aren't allowed to discriminate on people coming into their community or shopping at their businesses based off of religion?
yes.
Okay, so you think the Amish should be forcibly integrated by the power of the state? They shouldn't be able to live on their own as Amish people.
If other, well, yeah. I think
that's
the
why you're
reason, I think that
pro-slavery
actually
and I'm not.
already. Well, I think that already is the law. The difference is kind of what you're saying, which is like, hey, why would a black guy want to live in a sundown town? Is most people don't want to become Luddites and give up technology, so they don't do this. But legally, I think they have the right to. I don't think you can enforce Amish
So the Amish
segregation
are
in the
not-
way that they have it, right?
The Amish are not. You're speaking specifically of like Pennsylvania Dutch Amish. There are plenty of beachy Amish and Mennonites that use cell phones and all those,
Okay.
the cars and things like that, right? They have insular communities that are completely voluntary, right? And so it is your position that if the Amish want to have a voluntary society of Amish people together, that the government should force the Amish to allow people to come into their town or into their private property.
So two things. One, is that not already the case legally? But two, yes, if it's not legally the case,
I
yes.
don't
If
think
that
it is
is
the case
not the case, it
legally
should
because
be.
it's a-
That they shouldn't be able to
So
say,
it
because
should
then
be.
right,
So we should
because otherwise,
expand the rights violations of the
I
Freedom
believe it's already the
Association
case in the
because
same
the Amish
way.
are such a problem.
No, it's not a
The
problem.
Amish-
Like again,
those
you could do
pacifists
this
are
in a
hurting
way
so many
that's
people.
not a problem, Fabian. Like I completely concede this. Look, if you got a bunch of white people who are like, we're gonna go out in the woods, no one has a society out here, we all just hate black people, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna form our little white
Hell yeah.
commune, and no black people are gonna want to come there because there's nothing fucking there, and it's probably some shittily run thing.
Yeah,
or whatever.
I don't want
It's
a
just
bunch of
little
I don't want a
communist-
bunch of
All right,
Mayo
Soy
sure.
Pill, Soy Pill, hold on, hold on.
Just
hold on.
because
All the
this
chickens
one,
grilled.
just
No.
because this one's not that bad, does not mean that legally it should be permitted. Because then, if anyone does this in such a
Well-
way that
well,
excludes
all right.
black people from a greater
All right,
part of
I-
society, like Gibbs was saying, like let's say this small town where you have like one doctor, one barber, one everything, and it's like, oh, we're all just saying no black people. Yeah, if these black people don't have a choice, you are enforcing some sort of thing on them. You are aggressing on them
No,
by
you're not.
excluding them.
Okay, all right,
How
Soy Pill,
is-
hold on.
if they
hold on.
otherwise would have-
define the aggression. No, he's
I'm
making
gonna let
The
Fabian.
aggression-
I'm
the
gonna let
make a
Fabian
point.
answer, and then I'm gonna
Define
go
the
to Grid.
aggression.
is depriving someone of the ability to eat or get medical care if that's the only
None of
option
those
to
things
them.
are occurring.
I just described that was
They're not
what's happening, right?
depriving someone. You can grow food. You can move. You can freely use your body on
Okay.
your private property.
What if they
You're
don't have the
saying-
money
You're
to
saying
move?
that the black person in
Well, why should they
next
have-
door
well, hold
to
on.
the
Why
racist
they-
sundown town
that
Right,
doesn't
hold
matter
on.
to his point.
rights
Soy.
to the property and has
I'm gonna-
a
yeah,
right to the
let me-
people that live in that
Has a
town,
right
and
to
that those
exist
people-
in American society.
Let's
yeah.
go.
Right,
Let's
so
go
hold
to
on.
Grid. Let's go to
Soy Pill.
Grid here. Go ahead,
That's,
Grid.
Yeah.
but that's
So let me
it's a
ask, and look, this is dangerous territory for me because I'm from the South, and
Yeah, well, are you? Because you're kind of like
the actual
barely the
South,
South.
right? So Soy Pill, I've got
Uh,
to ask you a question. So back when all of this was going down and they were literally busing black people into white communities, to white schools, and these were completely white neighborhoods, do you think that was okay? Do you think that that was fine? To use tax dollars to literally bus people to different schools to meet a quota of desegregation?
Yeah, because otherwise
Forced
the people would have freely associate and kick these people out and force them into worse communities, which is what happened in a lot of places. So yeah, I do.
Well,
think that
that's BS. Honestly,
that
it actually destroyed a lot of black schools that were doing really well. So I think that this is a rose-colored glasses sort of thing
to some extent. But
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. What did you say?
I said it could have, but to some extent, right? But separate but equal, right? We have to understand this. A lot of these black schools were not doing as well as some white schools because they were not afforded.
Some white schools weren't doing as well as other white schools.
A way of having good books and such, right? Now
no, that wasn't the case.
Like the busing, but
unfortunately for your argument, that was not the case.
I don't care if the black school has worse books. Like,
yeah,
that doesn't mean
books
that
are issued by the school
rights.
system. I mean, that's not a good argument. Well, back then it were. I mean, now they're not. But
if the school system is purposely giving bad, giving black,
that's an assumption, not an evidence. You shouldn't.
Those bad, or used books or what have you.
You're assigning something that is not in evidence and did not happen with. I mean, I had to live through it. Okay, like I was a little kid. But I had to live through it. My parents had to live
deal
through
with the
it.
You had to live with
hypothetical of an entire
desegregation?
white town randomly deciding
my parents did, and I actually went
I
to.
dealt with that analogy. You deal with the analogy, okay?
Yeah, I actually
that white town. Just
to be clear,
was the white
you
kid
didn't deal with it. You said, why doesn't he
of-
just become a farmer even if he can't move?
Hold
Like
on.
as if they decided one day
Why can't he
would
move?
Well, let's say he can't afford to.
So I actually
So?
was one of the.
That's what I'm
looking
saying.
white
So
kids
so
in
you're
the
The
you're saying
default
that like
state of man is poverty. You don't get to enslave other people because it helps your fee-fees to feel better about some person having the right to other people's property.
if you're able to inflict harm like starvation on someone because they don't have
It's
the
not
capacity.
inflicting harm. Nature, but nature, nature doesn't just give you food. There's no grocery store in the middle of the jungle that we discovered. Like, the man starves unless he acts, unless
Right.
he uses his volition.
I'll starve if
and
I don't
his
go to
will
Costco
to shape his
and buy
environment.
my groceries. But if Costco said you're not allowed in because you're white, and then every other grocery store did the same thing within a 30-mile radius, and I don't have the ability to get gas because the gas stations do this too,
You know what I would do?
I'll
I
die.
would call up Grid and say, "Hey, man, I just heard from Soypill of a wonderful business opportunity. We can create a grocery store. We can increase the
And
prices
by the time you figure that out,
20%.
I'm
It doesn't
dead, bro.
fucking matter.
Like, I'm fucking dead at that point.
I understand,
you got the
that the person named Soypill doesn't understand how to grow food. I get that. But regardless, that doesn't mean that you get to violate other people's rights.
This I do want to interject here real quick.
I'm surprised that I enjoy this argument from you so much, Fabian. I'm really surprised. I really like this argument, Fabian. I really like
hold on. I gotta say here, Grid. When you said just now that was not the case in the schools and the books, on my surface in my head, I was just wanted to roll my eyes. But I'm doing some Google searches. And this is a thing I just found. They're saying that black students who attended either predominantly white or predominantly black schools, if you attended a racially integrated school, you were more likely. Yeah, it was a year and a half less. You were likely to go to school than if you went to either an all black.
Yeah, it didn't help anybody but a bunch of idiots who thought that desegregation was a wonderful thing.
And I'm looking at some of these other ones that are talking about the financial impact that this has.
Assholes.
This is
I'm with Fabian on this. I am fucking with Fabian. I've watched that shit go down.
No, you're not, because my solution would have been to abolish all public schools. Now you don't have a fucking problem. Just privatize.
I'm kind of getting there with you on that, because my tax dollars My tax
But
dollars.
yeah,
It's one of my
I
10
just-
arguments that I laid out in why Democrats support slavery, because they support
You
public,
know,
public
you
education.
Gibbs,
almost had me
Gibbs.
hooked.
I need to pursue this line of logic from Fabian too, because like, okay, let's
Yeah,
say
I
it was
just-
instead of Brown versus Board of
Fabian.
Education, we did what you did. We abolished all
With your
public
chest,
schools. So now
Fabian.
you have
Hell yeah.
Fabian with an A.
Fabian.
That's hard A.
It's
Excuse me.
Fabian. It's just, like I said, it's a play on the Fabian Society in the UK.
Gotcha. My
It just means
apologies. Fabian.
incrementalism.
Gotcha. Let's say we live in this world where in the 1950s and 60s, rather than desegregate, we said, fuck it, free association, abolish public schools. Now you have an entire swath, 13% of the population, I don't know if it was the same number at the time, who does not have access to the wealth
like
or
12%,
the
somewhere around there,
generational achievements or the connections. And you're like, go fucking make your own shit. And then all the people with the established precedent who have all the money and the buildings and the education and the teachers
What's
can
the
do what they
dropout
want.
rate now, Soy Pill?
What?
What is the dropout rate in
Can I finish?
public schools
I want to ask
now?
him the question, and
Because
then we can talk about how much
making
you
a
don't like
point.
black
I would
people.
really
right?
like you to. You're making a point that 12% would be harmed,
Dumb
and
black people.
I'm saying,
Like that one
I'm
guy, the
asking
whole
you
white
to
town hated.
give me
That guy's probably an
the
asshole.
number, the dropout ratio, because I'm going to guess it's higher than 12%. I don't know. That's why I'd like.
What does this have to do with my question as to how?
Because you were
this would
you were
function?
driving to a point of 12% of people would be left behind and harmed by this by not desegregating, and I'm saying that 12%. It's higher than 12% that currently drop out because the schools are desegregated, and that's exactly what.
Wait. You think the dropout rate of all schools for all races is because there are mixed race people in these schools?
I don't know, but you don't know that
this is what you just asserted.
But you don't know that 12% because they were.
What is happening?
You're attributing something that doesn't
you're
exist.
Presupposing,
If you can make shit up, I can make shit up.
No, Grid, you're presupposing that, first of all, the dropout rate.
You presuppose that 12% of uneducated
You're presupposing that the dropout rate was 0% and then
Because
reintegration, and now it's higher than 13%. So the comparable number would be the 0% dropout before with the 13% of the black people who would not be able to freely get good educations because they have no access to resources, which is ridiculous. But now you're also saying, well, it must also be because of
it
is actually ridiculous because I don't believe the 12% number for black people. I believe that. I mean,
you don't believe that that's how many black people?
I don't believe the number. No, I don't. And I also notice that you're not talking about.
Do you think,
you're not talking about white people who were not able to go to school.
Wait, hold on, Grid. Just for clarification, because now I'm confused. All right.
Yeah.
How many? What percentage of the U.S.? This is my question, real quick. Just maybe this will clarify.
Yeah,
what percentage right now do you think of America is black?
Oh, I have no idea.
Wait, what?
I have not. I'm sorry.
Wait, why don't you?
I think it's like 13%, right?
Why don't you believe the number?
I'm a terrible racist. I don't know that. I'm sorry.
It's like 13%, right? 13%.
Why don't you believe the 13% number?
I don't believe that there were 13% of people, black people.
Well, no, right now. How many black people are there right now in the United States? Like,
I have no idea.
13.
No,
13%.
Wait, Grid.
Right?
I was just using that number to say that if you completely separated and let people self-segregate and abolished all public schools, that 13% of the population, aka all of the black people, would have this completely disproportionate, like, I'm held back for 10 minutes in the race head start.
White people not get educated the same? Why are you super?
Are you asking me why black people had less resources in the 50s and 60s?
I'm asking you why you presuppose that when that was a.
It's not a presumption. This is just basic history.
Well.
Black people were slaves for hundreds of years.
Have you ever heard
they got freed in 1865, and then they faced Jim Crow and antebellum.
You can keep talking, but I'm going to. I really want an answer here. Do you really believe that all white people lived a life of luxury? Have you never heard of poor white trash?
No,
in the 50s and 60s, my mom and her parents lived in a house with an outhouse, young man. I've got to be honest with you. This is an idiotic.
Maybe let's not use that term.
That's an idiotic term.
I'm not. Wait, Grid, but you're assuming that I'm saying that all white people.
No, I'm listening to what you're saying, and what you said is wrong.
Let me try one more time. Tell me where I lose you. Okay.
You're saying
you
that
wait?
you're
No,
saying
listen
that,
to me.
that
No, don't
black
say what I'm
people
saying. Listen to me, please,
specifically were
Grid, please listen
disadvantaged,
to
and
me.
I'm saying everyone was disadvantaged, and I dislike it when people play the race card this way.
Okay, wait. I'm sorry. Do you think
I
that
love your virtue
white
signaling. I
privilege?
really
Do you think white privilege existed in 1850?
Someone in my chat just said 50% of the good arguments are made by 12% of the people on this panel.
Pretty good.
Grid, do you think that
Oh,
white
that's
privilege
funny.
existed in 1840?
I have no clue. I wasn't alive. You tell me.
Okay,
Was white
can you
privilege a thing?
insinuate from your historical knowledge that maybe it was easier to be
no,
white in
I really want to hear
1840?
your story. What are you
Okay, so
presupposing
what I'm
now?
saying here, and tell me where I lose you, because I promise you I'm not trying to deceive or assume anything, is that in 1950 and 60, not every white person was like live in luxury, had a TV, they, with all 5 black and white channels. What I'm saying is that if you look at the history of how black people were brought to this country, were freed as slaves, faced in Reconstruction, and then faced all the segregation up until, the civil rights moment, they're going to have less generational wealth. They're going to be worse off overall in communities because there's less money in those communities. And if, as Fabian suggested, you completely shut off public schooling at that moment instead of resegregating these schools, you're now having a whole community, 13% of the population, at a huge disadvantage to then do then everyone do free association and build your own schools game.
Okay, that's a really swell story.
The disadvantage
However,
is the integration, I think. The forced integration is the actual damage. If you
that was the actual damage.
Abolish public schools would have been the advantage for them. They would have gotten ahead much quicker.
How would they have done that?
Because it's a superior system of education. It's more efficient.
They don't have any money to build schools. They don't have the resources to like. What do you mean?
This idea that like even in the turn of the century in late 1800s, early 1900s. There were mutual aid societies and fraternal order societies, even before the Great Depression, where blacks were able to freely associate and get ahead and start businesses. Like this idea that 1950s black people were like this, like it reminds me of that George Bush.
It's
quote,
insulting.
It's the soft bigotry of low expectations, right? It's like obviously black people couldn't come together and like figure out a way to educate their children.
I'm aware of Tulsa and Black Wall Street.
What I mean? Like, stop.
What I'm saying is,
hold on.
The amount of resources that you would need to accommodate, replace and supplant, which is the public schooling system, did not exist in the black community at writ large. I'm not saying it was incapable of forming little schools or forming strong communities because they did this. I'm saying that if you just
CBUs.
I completely disagree. I think you're just pulling that out of your ass.
Hold on, let me.
I agree with it.
Hold on, more money.
Exactly what's
things would have been bad.
Let me just ask a question. It's like I don't know. I'm questioning a lot of life choices right this second. But I'm over here. I'm listening, and
I think the prop should do libertarians support slavery? I think that's where we're at right now.
I guess because I'm over here. I don't know. No, that's not the problem. I'm sorry. I guess I'm over here like I'm just like. My brain is cracking. One,
knocking them down. Buddy.
Well, yeah. So, first, Grid really blew my mind, and I didn't know that there was stats to back this up about the schooling and the integration not working out the way it intended. But
yeah, integration is pretty rough.
Let me throw another thing out there.
Let me just explain my brain break here because I don't think it's mutually exclusive. So I'm sitting here. That one really shocked me when I looked it up because I'm like, no way, that's true. That's something that just in my head I would have took as fact because common sense would say no. But then
common sense would say yes, Gibbs. Just to be clear, that if you put a bunch of people in communities where they're not necessarily wanted and they're facing a shit ton of backlash and literally have to have at gunpoint black kids allowed into the school, it's going to be a lot harder for them to operate and have been held back for generations.
That part I agree with. Hold on, that part I agree with you.
No, the gunpoint is at the white kids. To be clear, yes.
To be clear, I agree with you at that point. But my thing is, in the long-term integration and the other schools getting the separate but equal, and all the other stuff, like the funding and all that. I on the surface, I thought that would have been the results would not have been as bad as they were. However, now when we're talking about what Fabian you just said with the private schools being better than the public schools, like in principle, I want to agree. I think that it would work. However, when we're talking about 1950s America with 13% of the population. Okay, let's just follow your line of logic. Now, I am sympathetic to your point of view with me going, life's not fair, sucks to suck. You know, you're tough tits. You have to live the life you live, right? But on the flip side, I keep sit here and go, oh, well, it doesn't make sense that if we were going to take away the public school, that these people who, like, not a very large percentage, it's probably 1% of that 13%, or probably less, were living the good life with the fraternal orders and had Black Wall Street. This has got to be probably less than 1%. It's got to be like 0.5%. And so you're telling me, of the U.S. population, 12.5% of that, or let's just go with 12% if it was 12.5 then, of the population doesn't have access to this fraternal society, doesn't have access, and they don't have generational wealth. You're not going to be able to convince me that suddenly the private societies are gonna do better than like the U.S. government going, here, everybody gets the same textbook. Like I like, because you're gonna have a lady whose grandma was a slave, whose mama lived under Jim Crow. Oh, hold on, and then you got Mama Jim Crow, and she's not been educated at all, and she's supposed to teach the next generation. I don't know, organic chemistry. Like, no, that's just not gonna happen.
Let me help you out, Gibbs. For one thing, let me hold on.
No, don't help him out. He just made like 7 arguments against me.
I know,
right?
I know.
Like,
I want to help him understand something that I just literally had an argument about yesterday, and that is this idea that Soy Pill seems glued to, that blacks were so disadvantaged and they were so poor, and yet the income disparity isn't that large until after well, we can go back to 1907, and where it was really close. After Reconstruction, blacks actually made more. People don't know that. People think that and during Reconstruction that they made more than white people, or more than white people made more than black people. That's not the case. Black people made because, again, poor white trash. And I'm just going to say poor white trash. And it changed after World War II. It really changed after World War II, and that's where you start seeing the income disparity, the wage disparity between black people and white people. Starting to really happen. And so Soy Pill, to some degree, is right that in the 50s that did start broadening, but they weren't dirt poor. These weren't like barefoot.
Nobody used the WT population no more. I don't know if that's TOS or not. But nobody use it no more.
I just sent you a graph in the group chat. You can look at the white-black per capita wealth ratio. I don't know why this is an argument right now. It's just always been in favor of white people, like the entire time. It has never flipped. There's never been a moment where the entirety of the black communities had more money than the white community. I'm so baffled by this.
I can explain that. It's
argument number 11.
We're
like argument number 11.
Go ahead,
so
Fabian. Go ahead.
We're now fighting ghosts because I'm. Let me respond. Okay. So
go ahead.
Earlier we talked about. Earlier you were with me, Gibbs. When we were
I'm just confused. I'm trying to go through this.
Will you? Hey, hold on. Let me make the argument. I get you're confused. I'm working with you. Okay. So you were with me when we were talking about welfare as a dependency trap, but for some reason there seems to be like you're standoffish on public schooling as a dependency trap.
No. Maybe let me clarify. Okay, go ahead.
No, I don't need you to fucking clarify. If you made 7 arguments and then Greg made an argument and then Soy Pill made an argument.
Go ahead.
Let me fucking defend this position you're all attacking. All right. Public education is extremely expensive. We get very little return on investment for it. Depending on where you are, it's somewhere between $11,000 to about $25,000 per student per school year, right? So if you're in like New York City, for example, to the state is paying about $25K in order to educate a child. Let's say you're a family with 3 children, that's $75,000 a year is what it costs. I don't know how many. Moms could easily stay home, right? You can do Montessori school situations. You can do situations where mothers or fathers work 4 or 5 days a week, and then they have a group of children within a family or a community where they homeschool for 1 or 2 days, and then a different parent homeschools for 1 or there are so many incredibly cheap alternatives to public schooling, which is extremely expensive. And it's important to note that every one of those $11,000 to $25,000 is money taken out of the economy. Where every single time, it is money that is in the form of taxation. That means that prices go up, food gets more expensive, wages go down, businesses grow at a slower rate. That there is a cost to educating children. And that cost is astronomically more than it would be if we had a private system where people could, yes, some people could pay for a nice private school. Some people would just homeschool alone, which is what people do now, even though they still have to subsidize public education because they don't get tax rebates for homeschooling. But nevertheless, the other portion of that, when we're talking about the dependency trap, what happens at schools? They train people to be workers. They train people to be obedient. They train people to be statists. Every fucking morning in every public school in America, they get up and they say the Pledge of Allegiance, and they make sure that they understand the hierarchy that they're under. They promote collectivist ideologies. They promote social emotional learning. They promote a form of ethics that is acceptable by the state. It is a form of indoctrination, and it is a form of learned helplessness that is imposed upon people so that those people then end up having to pay. And even the poor people are paying by having lower wages and higher inflation from the money that is stolen from you so that
Where
we
do you
can have
think the money
public education
goes when
systems.
once it's in the public education? Do you think they eat it or burn it? Like, what do you mean it was removed from the economy? I'm so confused by that one.
Well, I do want to say
That's
one thing.
retarded. Like
to clarify-
that's just retarded. Like
me
No,
just
I
clarify-
genuinely don't know what
economy,
you mean.
and
Like
then
when
it's
I hear
put into
money
public
removed from the
schools.
economy, I think it's being sent overseas and not like repatriated at any point.
No, just because the money is like if I take all of your money and then I do some government program, obviously the money went into some government
Okay,
program.
sorry, it was the language
But-
you used.
but
I
that
apologize.
money-
I understand
the money is
taxation
still
stuff. Got
taken
it.
from you.
Got it.
Right? That money, every dollar that you tax means some
Yeah.
level that you are decreasing wages in America. You are
I-
slowing business
Yes.
growth.
No, I
in
understand
America.
the language now. I forgot for a second for some reason that you were
Right. And every
libertarian.
time the government spends money without actually taxing said money, then it's a tax on inflation. And that means higher prices. So some way, some form, whether you're poor or whether you're rich, you are paying for these programs out of, even if you don't pay any taxes, you're paying in the sense that your ability to go and get a job in the labor market is less than what it would be because there's less jobs available, and the wages, because of the competition, the supply and demand equation of labor, means that your wages are lower. What I am arguing is that
Go ahead.
when we had a problem with public education and segregation, the appropriate response would have been to stop indoctrinating children, stop stealing money, and allow the market and allow families to be able to educate their children. And we have seen over and over and over again that when Black people are free to associate amongst people that they choose to associate with, that they do great things. And when the government gives out handouts, what they do is they teach learned helplessness and they indoctrinate people into a system of dependency that makes them collectivists, socialists, and makes their life worse.
Just to be clear, do you think that if Black people were forced to figure everything out privately on their own, like at the time, and
like really, I'm the
like,
only.
sorry, to be clear,
person.
I had no idea. You're purple to me, but go ahead.
Like listen.
Yeah.
I'm like literally the only Black person here, and everything that you have said is just complete bullshit. It's complete bullshit.
Do you have an argument?
Because I fucking lived it. I fucking lived it.
Standpoint epistemology is a contradictory
my
bullshit
argument
nonsense
is
statement. Give me the argument.
Okay, go ahead.
A Black
My
woman is
argument
speaking. Sit down and listen, Fabian.
What you've said is complete 100% bullshit. Because then when you start talking about taxation, right? If you want to start talking about taxation of services for schools, right? Then let's talk about services of firefighters. Let's talk about the services of what those taxation does. Now, I do not
we should
believe
privatize
at all-
firefighters. Yes,
I do not
absolutely.
believe at all that anything that you've said constitutes anything. Now, let's just
Do you have
even
an
talk
argument?
about there is no helplessness. There's none. There is no learned helplessness. As Black person in this fucking world, there is no learned helplessness. Now, everything that we have is because we fucking do it. Yes, we survive within the white system. That is the only thing that we have done successfully.
These are just claims. Do you have an argument?
I don't need an argument. I'm fucking
Do you know
here.
what an argument
Hello,
is?
I'm here. I'm the
Do
only
you know what
fucking
an
Black
argument is? I'm just
person.
curious.
Well,
it's a thing I've noticed on the left. They don't even know what an argument is. Do you know what an argument is?
What?
Do you know what an argument is?
I know what the fucking argument is. Don't fucking be condescending.
Well, I'm being condescending because you're being stupid. So can
No,
you give
I'm
me an
not being
argument?
stupid. I'm telling you my lived experience. I don't need a fucking argument.
Standpoint
from
epistemology is not an argument.
Well,
My
Standpoint
lived
epistemology is
experience-
contradictory nonsense.
Listen, as a person who is on the left and who believes in socialism, I believe in all of this collectiveness. If we are all working together, then we are all striving to be together and move to a certain point that will all.
So why do you need to
help
steal my
us
shit? Why do you need to steal my shit in order for you to succeed? Sounds like learned helplessness to me.
stealing anything. It's about being collectivism. It's about
Let me-
Right.
collectivism.
Well,
You're gonna
that's
take
stealing
from
other
me
people's
and
shit.
force me into your collective.
Everybody, if
Yeah,
we're
all right,
all
Like,
the same exact output.
fuck you. Go do your own thing. Like,
Okay,
go
all right,
build.
all right, hold on, all right. Here's
Why
what
do you
we're
need
gonna do.
me?
Hold on,
Unless
hold on,
it's
hold
learned
on.
helplessness.
We're moving away from. We're moving really far from where we were going. Even now, we're going down.
No, she's showcasing
social-
how the left supports
Sure.
slavery.
I
I
had one more.
Slavery in it,
I had
you are
one more. I had one more thing I wanted to dive into. Yeah, I had one more thing I wanted to dive into there, but we are past time. So what we're gonna do now? Let's just give some closing thoughts and get out of here. And because I don't know if I can do another deep dive. I don't know if I can dive more down the rabbit hole tonight. Woo! I got so many questions. Like, but I
got so many answers.
I haven't to say anything, and I'm gonna turn it over to Tyler because maybe you can answer this about Obi. My argument is not against private schools. Like, as like a conservative individual, I like private schools. I just find it slightly ludicrous that, especially after Black Wall Street got burned down and like such a small percentage, and you're telling me that like somebody is gonna have the same. And once again, I would even. It's just the argument isn't the one I would make. Maybe it's just maybe I'm like confused because you're like my argument would be tough tits, life is shitty, right? But the idea that this person whose grandma was a slave, her mom is totally uneducated. Her husband's gonna work in the factory, and she's not been educated by anybody, never been to a school, and then now we're gonna privatize it and get rid of public schools, and this person's supposed to teach. I just don't think that
it's
is
a soft bigotry of low expectations. It's just.
I just don't think that. I guess it's my racism. What I'm saying is I just don't see that that the logic would be that they're going to be equal faster based off their
Gibbs, that's because you're looking at this completely historically accurately and understanding the consequences of oppressing a group of people for hundreds of years and how they might not have the same opportunities. And Fabian is living in his libertarian fantasy where as soon as you say go, then everyone can just figure it out and everyone has the exact same knowledge and background and wealth and everything, and it's cool.
And I think now I might be more willing to say, okay, it's equal. We should get rid. So my thing is like now I would see this is why I'm not a full libertarian. Like I would argue now, okay, I think people are on an even enough playing field that maybe we should remove the public school, we should do private or something. Like and I'm not saying that. I would have to look at stuff.
The historical
but
knowledge is on my side.
I would say I'd be more willing to consider that, but like at the time, I don't know. I'm mind breaking. I don't know. I'm gonna think about.
Well, how far does it go, Fabian? How far? Wait, Fabian. I'm curious. How far does it go?
Shut up.
No, I need to ask you. 1860. If you did this in 1860, would you have the same argument instead of 1950?
Well, okay, I'll answer your question with as far back as time immemorial. We should reduce the state and we should let people be free to freely associate and not be under the thumb of the state and be able to educate their children in such a way that's nonviolent. But when you talk about well, it works now, but it wouldn't work then. I just want to point out that slavery was abolished in Massachusetts in 1783, and that interracial marriage was abolished in Massachusetts in 1843. So why is it that you have a 70-year head start in Massachusetts, but for some reason the outcomes are the same? What we saw at the turn of the century is that black people were doing well when they were able to freely associate and they were able to work together in communities together. But then when the government stepped in, when Social Security stepped in, when the New Deal stepped in, when the silent generation stepped in and kept giving handouts and pushing these things.
Can I just ask you this, though? Because you bring up Massachusetts, right? I would assume a black person living in Massachusetts in 1783 or in 1843 or whichever year you said is going to be a lot different than a black person living in North Carolina or South Carolina or Georgia or
That's
well, I
actually
guess
his
not Texas,
point.
because
Yeah,
Texas
yeah,
has
so-
Texas
so-
actually did have those slaves up until for a certain point. So, but it would be different
yeah,
than a
so
black person living in
before,
like I don't know,
right,
Florida. Texas did
so
have
you
slaves.
have
It's
two-
the whole thing. Like
Yeah,
I just
so
don't
you
think
had
it's the
two-
same.
Yeah, so you had two great migrations from the South. One directly after the Civil War, right? So roughly 1865 is the beginning of that. And then with the end of World War II and the GI Bill and a lot more money flowing into communities in 1945, 1950, in that area, you had a second great migration out of the South. So predominantly black people are going to be in the South, especially the Deep South. And then after
Why?
1865, because that's where slavery was.
Okay.
Well, why does that matter? You say go once they're free, and they can just freely associate and figure it out, right?
Well, your straw man's is not an argument. I
No,
mean,
you
like,
can say no if that's
come
not
up
what
with
you
something.
think. That's just what you think in
Yeah, no,
1950.
that's-
But why not in 1865?
At no point in time is any demographic group that has less wealth going to have the same opportunities as someone that has more wealth. I just don't believe in using socialism and theft and violence to try and forcibly give people opportunities by stealing from other people.
What
Like,
if you already
I
used
will
that
say, however,
socialism and theft
that-
to enslave them in the first place, and you need to rectify that? Or do you just say
I'm all for restitution for slavery. I've said multiple times that we not only do we owe black people that can trace their lineage reparations, we also owe the Cherokee in northern Georgia that were forcibly removed by Andrew Jackson reparations.
I will
right?
say
Like, I
I
have
commend
no
the
problem with that.
consistency, though it loops all the way around to yes, we should do reparations, but also for everyone who's paid taxes, which includes black people and Cherokee Indians. Okay.
Yeah, we also should do reparations for all the taxes. Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yes.
And at this point, the calculation would most likely be that blacks would probably not get that much, just because white people will have paid so much more in forms of taxation.
True.
Okay. All right. Closing thoughts, Tyler.
Well,
Thank you for talking so much this debate, Tyler.
I got along at
One
outro.
more thing before Tyler goes.
Yeah. I got a long outro because again it's been like 40 minutes, and again I've enjoyed watching. Maybe I just didn't even need to be here for it. I could just watch Soy's channel or something. All right. Since we didn't talk about the topic, we only got to it like the modern day spin on the topic that Gibbs was trying to allude to with this. I'm gonna kind of address that, put a cap on it with Soy because we were kind of and Grit and I were kind of going with that. So I get Soy's argument for change. I said this earlier. The government has the ability to change. Not only do I disagree with his prescription to change, but I like a lot of the policies he's advocating for. That being said, until those things actually change, what these states and judges are doing is not right in the current system. You don't get to ignore the Supreme Court and continue to make illegal injunctions on the entire country if you're a district judge. You don't get to do sanctuary cities that ignore and sometimes work against federal law. It just isn't how it works. I'm sorry. And I do agree with your prescriptions to some degree. We can have the reason we have the system in place we do is because it vets people and it works very well. I'm somebody that just went through it with a family member. So I can tell you it's not that hard. And most of it is vetting. 90% of it is vetting to make sure you're not lying and to make sure everything you say checks out. Outside of European societies, I don't know if you guys have traveled much, but I've been around the world a couple of times. Outside of European societies, the world works very differently. You do need to be assimilated, and we don't want to overload our system. We saw this during the Biden administration when they weren't deporting people that had the proper orders, letting people in on the border that probably shouldn't have come in, and letting asylum abuse go on. We saw New York City, Chicago, and several other cities completely overloaded. The infrastructure they had in place, both through legislation and through government funding, was completely overloaded. We saw New York City sewers being overly stressed as well. We don't have the capacity to take in certain amounts. That's why we allow it to be 1.25 a year. We let Congress delegate that. When you start endorsing illegal immigration through this incentive system, you bypass Congress and thus bypass the will of the voter. And until that's changed, I can't agree with you, even though in spirit I do. Now to the libertarian. Arguing with Scott is always fun. I've gone on a show to try to better understand his arguments. To the best of my ability, I think he would tell you I gave a good faith listen and gave some good questions back to get deeper and deeper into it. But at the end of the day, I still think that his system would result basically in just Mad Max, and luckily only 1% of the population votes for it. So for a group that only gets 1% of the vote, he did 50% of the good points because he got 50% of the damn talking time out of 7 people. Though Scott here admitted that his system would let rich people buy a bunch of land and kill anybody that came over the border if they wanted to, if it was their land. And he would also allow for ethno-states. And then on top of that, there's no person in place to actually police if you contractually sell your child away to slavery. I would say job's done here in saying libertarianism isn't that great of a system for the people. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what this devolved in. I wouldn't say devolved. Altered into, which is always fun. I enjoy them. It's just not what I prepped for, so I was kind of quiet.
Well, thank you so much for that. I'm going to let Grid go next. Grid, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. First of all, I learned some new arguments tonight. I'm fascinated by Fabian's Civil Rights Act induced slavery argument. I find it impressive, and we're gonna have to talk more about that, because I mean, yeah, I get it. I do. I also prepped for a much different argument. I think we started off down the right path, and I don't know how we got train wrecked, but it was an awesome train wreck. Soy Pill did a great job tonight. To be honest with you, it's just, there's no logic behind his position. He just let everybody in, or let everybody that's here now, let them become the path to citizenship. Let's not deport them. Cost more money. And all of the excuses, not reasons, excuses on why we shouldn't do something that the law says we should do. I don't know. I can't agree with that. I don't believe in it. Because we don't have a nation if we act in this way. I understand the position that he has. I just can't get there from here. As far as the rest of the argument, that we kind of devolved to, we didn't really evolve to it. We devolved to it. Again, found Scott's position and argument absolutely fascinating. I can't wait to talk to him more about it. And I don't think Soy Pill's position in this was tenable. I think that he really rather thinks of anyone but white people in this country as oppressed, marginalized and victimized, rather than just simply say, yeah, we're all people, we all have it bad, and yeah, some have it worse than others, but that happens in any group, in any society. Fuck it, let's just keep going. I don't understand his position. I tried. Maybe it's just, maybe he just didn't explain it well enough, or maybe his position sucks. I don't know. I don't really care at this point. I've got a headache and I want to quit. You guys have been awesome tonight. Gibbs, thanks for the opportunity, and I'm done.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Malakat.
Yeah, so sorry I wasn't here. I have a broken foot and things are fucking hard. Just want to say that socialism works. I think all of you misunderstand the plight of Black people as white people. That is your blind spot. And y'all pretty much need to work at it and work better at it. So that's pretty much it. I'll leave it at that. And yeah, fucking white people.
All right. Well, thank you.
Well, I honestly think
Yes,
Fabian's
please.
half black. I don't
Yeah.
quarter black or something like. He's
Well, let's go to Fabian. Let's go to
Bottom
Fabian
half.
here.
so I
So you
wouldn't
wanna
call
go
him a
me?
fucking
Yeah.
white
Yeah.
person.
So, I started this stream with a definition of what slavery is. I'll repeat that. The definition that I chose to use from a libertarian perspective is any system that forcibly takes the product of one's labor or property, or compels a person to act against his will as a form of aggression that negates bodily autonomy and reduces the individual to a state of servitude. And over again, what we saw tonight was, what it eventually turned into just the, as I said, quoting George Bush, the soft bigotry of low expectations, which is, that Black people need to steal from the white people, and get that wealth back so that they can be able to have the same opportunities, when history doesn't show this. In fact, what history actually shows is that when Black people are free to freely associate, they make programs like the United Order of the True Reformers. William Washington Brown was able to take freed slaves and turn them into business owners and own hotels and have health care that they communally did through fraternal order societies. And I agree a little bit with what Malakat said. Not the racist and shit and the, standpoint of epistemology shit, but I do agree that, when collectives voluntarily work together, that they can do great things. And we've seen that in history where Black people collectively came together and they were able to choose their own doctors, where they could choose their own teachers, where they were able to create schools that in many ways outcompeted what it was that the state was giving them. Much like the Royal Order of the Moose did at the turn of the century, they were able to educate themselves better than would the public school system, even while having to pay those same taxes that supported that form of theft and enslavement. Schools have been used just like healthcare mandates, just like labor unions, just like the gun control, just like affirmative action, just like the welfare state in general, just like taxation, just like the regulations on property and NIMBY laws. Over and over and over again, Democrats support slavery, and they love to use Blacks as a token piece to win elections, as they consistently stomp on them and never give them what it is that they promise them, and instead string them along so that they can use them as a voter base. I will end this. You can find me, Fabian Liberty, on YouTube or Twitter, with one of my favorite Ayn Rand quotes, my favorite being about contradictions from Atlas Shrugged by Francisco d'Anconia. But my second favorite would be the smallest minority on earth is the individual. Those who deny individual rights cannot claim to be defenders of minorities.
Thank you so much. Soypill.
Yeah, I came here to talk about illegal immigration. Sorry I didn't get through to you, Grid, although I do appreciate your good faith in listening. Basically, my argument is it just does not make economic sense to do mass deportations. A lot of people are here. I think they're not hurting anyone. They're nice dads and moms that are just hanging out, working, and unfortunately getting abused and paid under the table a lot. And I think those people should be reintegrated as easily as possible. I think it's totally capable within our system and with not as much expense. I love to steal more money from people like Fabian to pay for it, and that includes me too. I would pay a lot of taxes. Somehow we've devolved into the fact that ethno-states are cool. From Fabian, 1840s didn't have white privilege. That didn't happen. Malakat, I'm sorry I caught all the crossfire for being white, but I get it. I understand. Don't worry. But in terms of bigotry or low expectations, I only really have it for libertarians because every time they talk, they say the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire fucking life.
True.
Thanks for having me.
True.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm going to use one famous quote from one of my favorite emperors, Emperor Valkorion, and he once said, "Your birthright is the losses you take." And I lost brain cells tonight, so I'm pretty excited about that. But all right, yeah, thanks everybody for being here. We'll be back Monday. I got some excitement coming on. Friday we're gonna be on the Project VO Pod. Arguing against some people is what I've been told. So that's what I'm gonna be doing Friday. Then we'll be back Monday, and we got some exciting stuff next week. So stay tuned. Thank you all for being here. This is a good one. Y'all have a good rest of y'all's night. We're gonna raid somebody.
You too, Greg.
Let's raid It's Justini because I need to look at some titties. And that's what we're going to do. And whatever. She won't care. All right. Y'all be good. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. It was fun.
See ya.
All right. Peace.
Fuck. The things I do. My God. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always interesting to me to see how much in denial people can be. It's always amazing to see the irrationality, right? The dumbassery, for lack of a better term. Tyler, if you're still listening, come on up and we can talk about this in debate. That'll be cool. You don't have to, of course, but you're welcome to. Come on up, have some fun. But damn, son, that was rough, man. That was something. That's something else, guys. Soy Pill ran out of soy. He tried to. He really tried to come in there and achieve the high ground. And every time that he would think that he was up there somewhere, he would get dick. He would get dick punched, and then he'd be like, "What? What the fuck?" Poor Soy ran out of soy. I have no idea what the Muslim lady was even doing there. She added zero to the conversation except for a bunch of prattle. All it was. Pulling. I'm the black. I live at race card. Yeah, that really. I tell you, ZD Dan, it was amazing. It was really amazing. Like I actually thought Soy Pill was going to be more trouble tonight. I had made an assumption that he was going to be like his normal self, and he was kind of, in my opinion, he was kind of off his game tonight. Like he was not really on it tonight. So, which is fine, that's fine. But I really didn't understand. I really didn't get the entire. I'm black, so you can't talk to me about this nonsense. That was crazy. It was a shit show, smoking space, man. The problem is I really didn't give Scott enough credit for wanting to literally destroy the position from his, from where he was at, right? Like he just, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm the only one that talked about those. Hey, Casimir Freeman in the house. How are you? Yeah, actually, absolutely. Let's do that, Casimir. I don't know if you remember my Discord. If you are, or if you use Discord, you're welcome. One of the mods will drop the link, and you can join the Discord and catch me there, or however you want to do it. You're welcome to come up now if you would like and chat. Well, there were a lot of fallacies in this argument, to be honest with you. There were a lot. There were tons. I really enjoyed Scott's position of the civil rights being the gateway, the enslaving everyone. I thought that was a brilliant argument. I really did. I really didn't think that. I really didn't think I was going to appreciate the argument, and then he laid it out, and I'm like, yeah, okay, all right, I see that. I agree with that. And the picking on the public education is brilliant because it is factually correct that desegregation hurt Everyone. Everyone. That's factually correct. So. Yeah, I really enjoyed. I actually enjoyed that for the most part. The problem was is soy pill's really hard to nail down. You know, you think you do, you think you got him, really don't. He'll move a little bit, you know, and he'll reframe a little bit, not a lot, a little bit. And what he does is, and you saw him do this, is I would ask him, well, how long is it for them to be established? And he, to his credit, he said, you know, if you've been here over a year, that's fine with him. And I didn't really get to push issue because we kind of moved on, and that was fine, no big deal. But yeah, that was wild. That was wild. To everyone that sent in a super chat, I really appreciate it. I really do. I think it's awesome. And that's how tofu is. Start to press on it and it moves. It's true. It's true. I can't argue against that for sure. So it had the potential to be a great debate, but it was really me, Tyler, Fabian, and Soy Pill. The others were not. They weren't in that debate. The other two were not in that debate. Yeah. I honestly, I got kind of a bad headache. I'm thinking about heading over to Glenn's and chilling over there for a little while. Casimir, having difficulty with those links. You work, so maybe this weekend. Yeah, absolutely, man. I will. I don't know what my weekend's like. I will definitely be on Saturday night. If that were Friday and Saturday nights, both nights I'll be on. And I'm easy to get a hold of. It's not a problem. We'll make it work. Let me try and give you a good link. Maybe there's something going on. And there we go. See if that helps, Casimir. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. So I was right on the rifle and the Charlie Kirk shooting. It's a sporterized Mauser World War II rifle, World War One. So a bunch of people talking shit, but Casimir, if you'd like to come up and talk now, I can throw you a link. That's no problem. You can just jump right up and we can talk for a few minutes. If not, I'm going to send everybody over to Glenn's and I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to be honest with you. Well, actually, I'll go over there for a minute. I think this is the second time today I've rated Glenn. Man, I got a headache. All right. I don't know, guys. It was a distraction from the Charlie Kirk thing, so that there's that. So. Okay. Absolutely, man. I'm gonna send everybody over to Glenn's stream. Hang out there. I may pop up for just a minute, but I'm gonna get some rest pretty soon. I see you, Casimir. I'm saying welcome right now. That's awesome. Cobra. What a wonderful movie. I'm tired. I didn't get any sleep last night, guys, and I worked out like a beast today. Today was rough. It was rough. All right, ladies and gentlemen, off to Glenn's you go. As always, be cool. Wear glasses if you need them.